Welcome back to Late Night at the Movies on the Late Night Chat Network, your first stop for pop culture talk. This is episode 58, Blowout. All right, welcome back to Late Night at the Movies, our movie discussion show. And joined with me here today, we got Max up in the house.
What's up?
JT. What's going on, Jay?
Hey, what's going on?
Who's occupied on his phone there.
No, I just got a message crazy, but yeah, what's going on?
And Julie Mack, of course. Welcome back.
What's up?
But yeah, welcome back, everybody. We got a full house here of co-hosts here to talk about the newest movie pick, which is my pick this week. We do want to mention, please like and subscribe to the channel. Check out our playlist, all kinds of different episodes of this, as well as our other movie discussion show, Late Night Letterbox, that we do. We also have done a bunch of movie trailer reactions that you can go check out, all in the Late Night at the Movies playlist here on the YouTube channel. So yeah, make sure to like and subscribe and check out all that good stuff. But yeah, this is our movie discussion show where we take turns picking usually, older films that we want to discuss, revisit, maybe check out for the first time, do a deep dive discussion on. And this is my pick. This is a Brian De Palma film from 1981 starring John Travolta, Nancy Allen, and John Lithgow are the main people in this film, I would say. It's Brian De Palma is the director. And the reason I wanted to do this film is that initially when I watched this last year for the first time, I was so impressed with the film itself and how I had never watched it before after watching it. I think the how I came across this is that I heard Quentin Tarantino talk about it being his favorite Brian De Palma film, and he's a huge fan of Brian De Palma. And then after I watched this, it kind of opened up the door for me to go and watch a bunch of other Brian De Palma's films around this period of time as well, which I really enjoyed everything I kind of watched. But this was definitely the standout for me out of the films that I had watched that were new to me around that time. And the two things that stood out to me after watching it the most, which was honestly the extremely dark ending to this film, which I did not expect. Spoilers out there, everyone. Of course, we are talking about the movie. This is one of those movies that in tone you feel like the two people that are falling in love with each other are going to end up together at the end of the movie, and that is not what happens at the end of this movie. And it is just an extremely dark kind of end to it, which I thought was brilliant. When I seen it, I'm like, whoa, that was fucked up. Just it just kind of just ended on a crazy dark tone, especially for this period. And I did not expect it. And I was just I was also impressed about how many interesting film techniques he incorporates into this movie. There is so many great shots and interesting things to look at this movie, even if you go past the movie, the story itself, which he also wrote and directed this. There's so much things to kind of revisit and enjoy in this if you appreciate movies and movie making. I wasn't really familiar with the De Palma's films outside of Scarface and maybe a couple of other things that I had seen, but nothing from this period of time, probably all later De Palma films. And he clearly has a lot of Hitchcock influence. I've come to learn about his movies around this period, the way that he shot certain things, the way he framed certain sequences. It obviously has inspired a lot of people, and it just opened up a whole other avenue of films and film appreciation for me as a result. I love a good conspiracy movie. I love movies that find ways to talk about movies, and I love this because talks about movies, production of movies. And in this movie, he actually uses stuff that he uses in his everyday job in films to actually help solve the crime, which I just was amazed by that whole sequence the first time I watched it, because he's a sound man. He basically puts effects in films. And I just love this exploration of like an underused kind of representation of like this job in film. And so, yeah, just those are the things that really drew me to this movie. And I feel like I watched it twice fully, and then certain scenes for this talk here today. And I think I watched it twice the first time around. So I've watched the film like 5 times now within the last, I guess, year and a bit. And I still really, really enjoy it and impressed by it, and find new things to kind of look at each time I revisit it. So yeah, that's kind of why I picked this. It's not that I'm, it wasn't because of John Travolta. It wasn't because, it was basically just because of Brian De Palma and the fact that I had heard this mentioned by other great filmmakers that I really appreciated. And I'm going to circle back. We're going to go around and, I want to hear what everybody else has to say about this, initial thoughts on it. We can get into likes and dislikes, but I do have a lot of facts about this film that I kind of discovered after watching it. I have the Criterion Blu-ray 4K of this, and there's a great feature on that's actually on YouTube as well. I'm gonna put the link in the description of this video. You guys can go check out. Somebody uploaded on YouTube where Noah Baumbach, the director, has an hour interview sit down with Brian De Palma, and they kind of go into the nitty gritty of a lot of the kind of details around this film and the way he filmed it, and certain things that really added, honestly, to my knowledge about the movie this time around. So I'm really glad that I came across that. It was on the special features on that Blu-ray, but it is also on YouTube. So I'm going to put that out there even for you guys. If you guys didn't end up watching it, I'll share it with you guys. But I just kind of wanted to come here with like a little bit more information to discuss here about the movie. But yeah, why don't we go around? Max, why don't you start us off here?
Yeah, so this is my first time seeing this movie, but like you, I knew about this movie for a couple of years, actually, like you, because of the whole Tarantino. He's always talking about this movie and stuff, and he's always talking about De Palma. I'm not actually De Palma is actually like a huge blind spot for me personally. Like, I might have only seen 4 of his movies, and Scarface might be the oldest one I've seen. I haven't seen any of his 70s stuff or whatever. Like, there's earlier period stuff, which I guess this movie is like the tail end of. Yeah, excellent film. Excellent film.
Like
it's
it?
Yeah, I love
like
it. I love it. It's just the craft of filmmaking, and it is top notch. Like, you could see it, like the way he shoots, and a lot of the techniques, like the split screening and the foreground backgrounding shots that are just so like really interesting to look at. He's kind of just like he's kind of like I don't know, it kind of makes you look at filmmaking through another lens kind of when you watch this movie. It kind of has the wheel in your brain kind of spinning, like, oh wow, you could really do, like, this really is like kind of a limitless kind of art form, if you look at it like that. And yeah, it was just it's crazy. I guess we'll go deeper into it when we talk about specific scenes and stuff. But also, maybe the best Travolta performance I've ever seen. Like, I don't feel like I've ever really known who Travolta was as an actor until I was like, whoa,
right?
This is good.
This is really good in this movie. Yeah,
by far, I think this is his best performance.
So a lot of people say that. Obviously, he's really good in Pulp Fiction too. It's hard for me not to say Pulp Fiction, honestly, but I would say this is neck and neck for me, honestly, this performance. He's definitely in this movie a lot more, and he's doing a lot more in this movie.
Course.
Actually, an interesting little, I just throw this one out here now. He had insomnia throughout the whole filming of this film. That's why his eye, he is legit looks strung out in this movie, and that's why.
It's like method acting.
Yes, yeah. Like, I don't know if that was a purposeful thing, but I read up on the notes.
The early 80s.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe the late 80s. Yeah, I don't know.
Could have been.
But apparently, he claims that he had insomnia during this film because he was really into like the work and the success of this movie. Like, you know, this was an interest. He did Carrie with Brian De Palma. This is the reason why these two guys worked together on this. And what had happened was De Palma talked about in that thing that I watched. He was just talking with him as a friend on the phone, and he's like, "Oh, what are you working on now?" And he mentioned this film. He's like, "Okay, yeah, why don't you send me that? Let me take a look at the script and see if I'm interested in it." And he's like, "No, this is a smaller movie." Like De Palma was like, "You don't want to be in this," because like he was huge at this point. This is after Saturday Night Fever. This is after Grease. This is after Carrie. Like, and Nancy Allen, the woman in this movie, was actually married to De Palma at this point. And the reason that she was in this movie is that she was also in Carrie, and Travolta liked working with her on that movie. So he kind of actually urged him to put her in this film with him because he enjoyed working with her so much on Carrie. And originally he was actually going to look for somebody else, but I'm already jumping into my facts here. But anyways, yeah, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, no, it was
yeah,
really
yeah,
good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, but yeah, so Jay, what do you think?
I enjoyed it. I mean, it took me a couple watches to get through the first 3/4 of it because, you know, it was kind of, you know, more of a drawn out story line. And then yeah, once you get to that last third of the movie, I think it got a little, the action started kicking in. And I could see why maybe you said Quentin Tarantino might have put you onto this thing too, because I could kind of see at the end almost where this type of character could lead into a character role that he plays in like Pulp Fiction or something like that. John Travolta himself, right? Because it kind of, he went from this happy-go-lucky guy like Saturday Night Fever guy to a whole different change.
Well, this was a jump for him, right? Yeah, this was an interesting move for him at that point in time, and it actually derailed his career for the rest of the 80s until Quentin Tarantino resurged he brought him back to prominence with Pulp Fiction. This movie did not do well, but it's partly because of the ending being so fucking dark. That was like, it wasn't well received when it came out, right? And then years later, it was just like a lot of film enthusiasts were just like, this movie's a classic and it's basically the best Travolta performance I've ever seen. And like, I guess he never forgot that, right? He's a fan of everything he said that he did, like Travolta, like Quentin Tarantino's talked about him at length, like in that sense, but he really likes his performance in this film. And this is why, yeah, right? Like you just hit the nail on the head. That's why he wanted to work with him on that.
Yeah, I just feel like you got two different, maybe three different style characters of John Travolta in this style acting, sorry, in this movie, and you can get to see maybe him sort of, you know, go through that sort of change in that sense as an actor. Because I mean, this is early John Travolta too, as well, right? So you're like, I don't know if it was supposed to be based in like the 70s, even though it was filmed in probably late 70s or something, right? But yeah, no, it was really like I liked the big thing I liked about it was the sound and the whole audio stuff about it, right? But yeah, it took me a little while. It was to get used to the first little half of the movie, but maybe like I said, 3/4 of the way through. But once I got through that part, it was just like nonstop from there. And then, you know, to see John Lithgow and stuff like that, that was just
that
a
was
totally
fun, right?
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that. Like, you don't see that very often. You know, I just remember watching him as a bishop or whatever.
Well, everybody that I mentioned this in passing to somebody today, I was like, "Oh, you ever see this movie?" And I'm like, "Oh, Lithgow, he's a killer in it." And like the first thing they said was like, "What? You mean like on Dexter?" Because everyone knows as Lithgow from Dexter was that serial killer, and I feel like that's what everybody talks about. But he's insane in this movie too, right? Like
he's really good in this.
Yeah, he's like, and he's apparently he went on to do other films with De Palma. I think he's in Raising Cain, which I've never seen. And he plays a bad guy, I think, or really weird guys in a couple of other De Palma films, which I've never watched. But that's what I had heard when I was doing the research on this movie a little bit. So yeah, it's he was good.
It goes to a third rock from the sun, and it throws everybody off. Yeah,
right. And now he's playing in the new Harry Potter movie that's going to be coming out.
Yeah, he's going all everything. He went Bishop, now he's going to play Harry Potter in the Harry Potter movie, like
yeah,
you know, a cardinal. Yeah, so. It was interesting to see him, and he's a lot younger too, so it throws you off not seeing him with the gray hair and that, right? So yeah, but no, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It's the first time I've watched it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's
all three of you is their first time watching it, right?
Yeah. I didn't know anything about it until you mentioned it.
Right. I only discovered it, like I said, last year, so I'm new to it for the most part too, even though I watched it a few times now. All right, there we go. definitely the most harshest critic out of the Julie Mack. What do you think?
So I didn't I had not heard of it. I had not seen it, and I also have a blind spot as far as Brian De Palma stuff comes. But then I looked and I'm like, oh, I actually have seen more. I thought I had only seen one, but I've actually seen 3 now, I think, including this one. Let me just double check real quick. Because I've seen Carrie and I've seen Blowout now. And I've seen Raising Cain. So I've seen 3 total.
Oh, you've seen Raising Cain. I've never seen that movie. I heard it's pretty messed up though.
Yeah, from what I remember, it is. I think I've only watched it once, maybe twice, but I didn't think it was a bad movie. It held my interest, but I would have to rewatch it again to really like critically think about it. I did kind of, the full breaks is that I did have low expectations going into it, not because it's a Nico pick, but because I don't particularly care for John Travolta.
That's it. Spite pick. It's got spite next time, Julie.
I just don't. I don't know. I don't really vibe with John Travolta movies. I don't know. So I was like, it is what it is. I was dreading watching it a little bit. Do I think it's a masterpiece? Not exactly, but was I endlessly entertained by it? Fuck yes, I was. So that's kind of where I sit.
It's so hard to get to enjoy a movie that's new on the show. It really is for any of us, really, right? Because of different tastes, I guess, on stuff. So you enjoyed it for the most part. Okay.
Oh hell yeah. Yeah. Like I was like, just because I don't know what it is about John Travolta. I don't even have anything like concretely critical to say about it. I'm just like, he just doesn't hit for me most of the time, other than like Pulp Fiction.
Of him now, though, like because this is a different era of Travolta. This is when he was the man in this period.
I guess,
right? I a big star when this movie came out, right?
I know
women off of him,
yeah.
I do know that. I just like, I guess like I don't have a lot to go off of. Like I didn't see Saturday Night Fever. I've seen Grease. I don't particularly love it. Like it just. I don't know. I don't know what it is that I just like, I just feel lukewarm about him, I guess.
He's not like in my like top 10 or anything, but he's
no, I know
performances like throughout the years. Like even I feel like when I talked about this on the last episode, Max had to kind of even rate me. He's like, "Don't start that. Don't start talking trash about Travolta," because I was kind of like, "He sucks. I love Travolta. He sucks now." I kind of said, right, but I feel like and this was a good period, I think, for him overall, right? So like I think from this point, all like I said, he got a little lost in the 80s for some folks, but going into most of the 90s, I thought he was still doing pretty good work for the most part, right? I mean, Face Off, let's not forget.
Don't forget, I was waiting for you to say that, buddy.
I told you, I love Face Off, but Michael, or what's it called? What's the one? The Angel, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's even nice. That's even cooler.
The movies that the critics didn't love by like Travolta, I still think are like he's good in them. Like what was the Look Who's Talking or whatever those like
the baby ones.
Like he's excellent.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I remember as a kid going to see Wild Hogs when it went into the theaters, and that's like a soft spot. It's like a little, not really a guilty pleasure, but that's just like a little nostalgic, affair for me. Like he was really funny in that. So yeah,
nice.
I've never seen anything with Travolta that I didn't like him in it, at least,
Get Shorty is really good.
Get Shorty is good. I like that one too. Yeah.
He picks his roles right.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, Julie, anything else to add though before I get into some of the background on this film?
Nope. That was all I wrote down for like my history and all that shit.
Okay. Well, no, I like I said, I know I joke around about giving Julie a hard time about her being critical about films, but that's what the great part about this show is that we all have different tastes about certain things, and I do like that. That's why I'm glad you guys all gave an honest opinion because. It does, but it does suck. It does suck if you bring something to the show and it's just like, I hated this, right? Like, so no, but don't, pull back on my part. If you didn't like something, then, let us know, right? If there's some critical stuff, you got to be honest here, right? But I'm glad I did say that last episode, though. I said, I think there's going to be something that everybody enjoys about this movie. So I'm glad that I was able to pull that off because this is my first actual pick outside of like a theme pick that I've made on the show, right? So good stuff.
Mhm.
All right, so some facts that I learned from that interview with Noah Baumbach with Brian De Palma here, some interesting insight into the film. So De Palma is from Philly, so that's kind of why he had like a good knowledge of the city and kind of filming locations for this one. I mentioned that Travolta had insomnia. I had some notes about things I liked here too. I'll run through. I like the score. I thought the score was definitely more of an old school kind of like vibe, definitely more like in the 70s, like you were saying, Jay. I felt like, but I think he kind of was trying to hit on like a classic, kind of more of like a classic noir kind of feel of a film almost. There's this really interesting lighting. Yeah, it worked. It worked. Even in like the more dramatic parts, it kind of felt like
even the style of film it was like it was.
But yeah, like I think it was the vibe that he was definitely going for. It was purposeful, is what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah, and I mean like that, and even though I mean the whole thing had to do with basically sound and editing like that. I mean, so you kind of almost had to come out with a perfect score for the. It really everything just fell into place. I noticed with that, like at the right timing. It sounded like like I said, 70-ish and stuff like that, but it was just it got that thriller part going, it got that drama part going, they just knew what to put in the right spots, right?
Yeah, the kind of like I was mentioning about the whole kind of more noir film to this and stuff. Like there was like a bunch of scenes too where like people are getting killed and there's like red lighting basking the scene. Like there's that whole moment where Lithgow goes into the construction zone and he kills that woman that looks like Nancy Allen's character. And like there's all this like red lighting kind of basked over the whole scene when he goes to like actually kill her and stuff like that. There's moments where he does stuff with lighting that's kind of interesting in this as well at times. Brian De Palma, he had the idea for this movie of a sound man that had to record effects for his own experience, actually mixing Dressed to Kill, the movie that came out prior to this. And while he was talking to his sound designer in the room while they're mixing it, he called him out for basically reusing the same wind effect sound, similar to what happens in this movie. And this basically inspired him to kind of write a movie about a character from this interaction that he actually had. And then he was inspired and really obsessed for a while over the Kennedy assassination stuff, because this is 1981. This is when all that kind of stuff, the conspiracy stuff that was surrounding that kind of stuff, and even the whole idea about whether or not you can trust the government was coming out. So that greatly inspired his story that he kind of cooked up in terms of the conspiracy angle of this film at the time he mentioned. He mentioned how much he loved doing this first scene, like staging it, like trying to do like a kind of cheesy horror kind of situation where everyone having sex, the co-eds in the room, and having, the panning, like kind of the camera across, like going to each room, doing like,
awesome opening scene, by the way.
Yeah, basically he's using the Steadicam technique in there, which obviously we know from famous shots like in Goodfellas, like going into the Copa and stuff like that. Steadicam was still a new technique at this time, and that's where you kind of position the camera on you and you can actually walk with it, Jay. So then like it's him kind of like going through the route, like as we saw that main character with the knife and stuff going through, that's why it kind of gave you that POV of somebody going through the actual party and all that kind of stuff. The other interesting shots that he did constantly in this movie, which you mentioned there, are called split diopter shots. And that's basically where you see something in the foreground and the background at the same time, and they're both in focus, which when I first saw this, I don't feel like I've ever seen that or actually took notice of it before in a movie. And I was super fucking impressed. I couldn't even, like, I just learned the name of that from watching that thing that with the Noah Baumbach when he interviewed him. I didn't actually know the name of it. I just knew like what the shot kind of consisted of. And I really was impressed by that throughout this film. Really cool. Like for instance, there's that scene where there's the owl and the owl's in the forefront. And then in the background, you see that stuff going on with the car or him like with the sound wand or whatever. Like I forgot what was in the background, but he's basically focusing. Both things are in focus at the same time. Another technique that he uses in this is just simple split screen, right? Which he kind of used to he said, the juxtaposition, like some of the information of the characters. He also did this in Dressed to Kill previous to this. But in this one, like when they're on the phone together and the screen kind of splits and stuff like that, that's kind of a simple older one that they used to do more. But the split diopter shot with the focus being on two different places, that's really what stood out to me in this one. I really liked that a lot. And basically, you use you put a piece of focusing glass on the lens to capture that shot, apparently, of the camera. And as a result, the end effect is what we constantly see throughout, like, many shots of the film. And there's two focal planes simultaneously, and he has to decide where to apply the cutoff. Like, he can kind of move it to kind of, make each one smaller or bigger depending on what he's trying to capture in the shot, right? So I thought that was really adds depth to field to the shots he was talking about, which is really interesting. Do you know this stuff, Julie? I know you have experience with and stuff like that. Yeah, okay. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know at this point.
To some degree, like, it's still interesting to me, but yeah, like, I do know like some base level of this stuff.
Yeah,
like, I'm aware of it. I haven't used a lot of it, but yeah, like, I do know about some of it.
Right. And then like the Steadicam thing, that's also the famous Boogie Nights scene and stuff that, right? That's it. So again, he's just using all these kind of different techniques that were either new at the time or just like, maybe rarely used by today's standards within this film that really made it, stick out to me. What else here? I got a little bit more here. Oh, they discussed the difficulty of the shot in the spinning room scene where he's going through all of the stuff and the reels are going and he's like messing everything up and going through all his tapes and throwing shit and beeping is going on. He didn't really get into it 100%, but what it sounds like is they actually dropped a camera into the room because there can be nobody in that shot. Like there was like mirrors and stuff in that shot, like reflections, and you basically you couldn't possibly be in the scene he's like to film the way he did when he did that spinning scene. So that is an impressive fucking scene.
That's my favorite scene of the film.
Yeah, personally. I know. I'm jumping ahead too. But it is. Yeah. It's also that's what I mean. It's also mine. That is the most impressive fucking thing in this movie is that scene to me. Yeah. Like, it's insane how he was able to capture that. And that's basically what he said he did. I think he descended a camera actually into the room and they had to, and he said they had to do like 1 million takes of that because everything has to go in sequence like properly for him to actually be able to capture the mania of him going through everything in that scene.
Was that sped up or
not to my knowledge or whatever? Not to my knowledge. But that's the thing. He said here, I wrote it down here what they quoted. They actually said he said the shot went on forever because so many cues had to be hit in the moment. And he's like, we had to do it so many times. And he's like, and then Noah Baumbach, who interviewed him, was like, do you know when you have the shot though? He's like, oh yeah. He's like, everything basically just clicks into place. And you just know when you have the perfect kind of sequence of events that he was doing. But that's what he basically had him do. He had to like throw shit all over the room. And he had to like, and it's also important that
not easy to do.
No, but also like the fact that you can't see the camera like in the scenes and they're going over certain stuff. It's something that isn't humanly possible. When I saw it, I was like, how did this guy do this in 1981? Right? It's insane. Like, yeah, it's crazy. I'm getting to like, like movie nerd type shit here.
No, go ahead.
Like, yeah. Again, a lot of this though, like I knew how to describe, but I couldn't actually tell you the details without having watched that thing, right? This is also inspired by movies like The Conversation, which we've talked about more recently on the show. And there's also a movie called Blow Out. No, this is Blow Up. Yeah. Which is about a fashion photographer who takes pictures and catches evidence of a crime in the photos after like he sees some of the photos that are developed. And I think he actually sees some stuff in the photos. And this is also famously that kind of inspired that was kind of the first one of these conspiracy films that people cite around this time that really kind of pushed these movies into, production. De Palma had also talked about, him making The Conversation at the time with Coppola. De Palma famously had his negatives stolen during the post-production of this film, and the scene in particular that he had lost stuff from was from the ending parade sequence, which is insane because that is a very technical scene. He lost the negatives. Apparently the film was put on a truck. The guy pulled over to go to a Dunkin' Donuts and the truck was stolen and he never got that piece of the film back. He had to bring back people after the fact that they've already filmed it to come and redo that scene, the last scene. He had to get somebody else in there to shoot that scene because the other guy had already moved on to another project. So like they had to bring Travolta back. They had to bring everybody that was in that parade sequence back and redo the whole parade sequence, which is basically the climax of the film, right? Which is that really fucking sucks. He says he's one of the famous few people that's happened to in the industry. He mentioned in this. You know, they had to refilm it. Liberty Day parade sequence took 11 cameras, 1,000 extras, 25 stunt drivers, and you had to film it twice. That is insane. And they spent like thousands and thousands of dollars because of this on post-production fees. This is a very expensive movie at the end of the day to make because of that. Like it also added on a lot of stuff, right? He went on to do Scarface after this movie, which was, I guess, a departure from movies that he did around that time, like the different style. Hitchcock POV shots influence his style in this. Psycho, obviously, with that opening scene, Vertigo, and Rear Window is the other one that they mentioned. That was a favorite of mine. Yeah. It took them all night to set up the lighting for the ending parade scene. By the time they were finished with the setup for that scene, the first time around, the sun was coming up. They used real fireworks during that scene to actually capture that. And famously, the studio wasn't happy with the dark ending originally. And De Palma got lucky because his producer on this movie at the time suddenly became the head of the studio that was releasing this film. And he made the decision to move forward with it based off the success of his previous film, Dressed to Kill. Otherwise, this ending would either have been changed due to the reaction from audiences, or it may have just not even seen the light of day. So thank God for that, because I thought it was a ballsy fucking choice, his ending in this movie. Honestly, it does not fit. I felt like there's some darker tones in it, but not overall for it to have a crazy dark ending like that, right? So there's my info dump of fun facts I came across from watching that documentary, and I'll put that in the link in the description of this video and share it with you guys as well. It was very informative, as you can tell. A lot of that information, like I knew how to describe this stuff, but I didn't know technical names for the shots and this kind of stuff. So I like how they kind of delivered it in layman's terms to the people in that, even though it's two directors talking who obviously know what they're talking about. So I really appreciated that, because apparently De Palma's a hothead at times too in certain interviews from what I've heard. So it was really good. They clearly respected each other in this documentary. So the only dislike I'm going to throw out there now that I had with this film, which I want to know your guys' opinions on, and then please let me know, likes, dislikes, and stuff before we get into scenes and quotes. Nancy Allen in this movie, is she good or bad in this film? Because she seems to be purposely playing a ditz character in this, but I also would argue she's not great in some scenes of this movie. Obviously, he's married to her at this time. He didn't want to cast her in this movie. I found out Travolta's the one that pushed for her in this movie. And I've seen her in other movies of De Palma's as well. She's great in Carrie. She's great in Dressed to Kill. And she's not this much of a ditz. Like, she's purposely playing this type of kind of ditzy character in this movie, right? Like, what'd you guys think of her in this? And he's the only person I feel like stuck out a little bit to me, where I'm like, I could have lost some of the scenes or the way she performed in some of these scenes. Honestly, I don't know. You could have got someone better in my opinion, but I didn't hate her though in this. I think she's good, but not great. How about you guys?
I think she was trying to overact that a little bit in some parts, where she just didn't need to be. I mean, the stone parts I could understand, and getting in the hospital and and that kind of stuff. But then she doesn't turn out to be that stupid kind of ditzy near the end of this movie. So the character kind of does a little bit of a change, right?
The second half, she's great in. Yes, the first bit where she's like really out of it, it's like feels like really shitty acting. Like her.
She was trying too hard to act like that.
Yeah, like Travolta's like blowing her off the screen in that scene where she's like, you know what I mean? Like, he's going in for the kill. He wants to sleep with her like right out of the creek. But it seems like, right? I mean, I get it. She's hot, but like the way he goes in there, it's like, hey, are you okay? She's like, what's going on? Like in the hospital, there's some scenes where I'm like, I don't know about this, man. No, like, what's all that? You never knew how hot you were. Blood over your face. No.
You know, it's the best guy. Like, I got no makeup on, but yeah, she's got like a fucking shitload of it on there. If you look, oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was a little much in the hospital part.
The last bit she's really great in. Yeah, she's really good in that last bit of the film. Yeah, but
Yeah, when she starts getting things explained to her a little more, and you know what I mean,
yeah,
like it's just kind of her character grew. I kind of feel, but yeah, in the beginning, it sounded just a little too much like she was trying too hard to play that character when she didn't really need to try that hard. You could just that should just be an easy character to
are
play
you
off.
nodding because you agree? Or
No,
you liked her.
I liked her.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything negative to say about this movie. Like I don't think I have when we say like likes dislikes. I don't think I have any dislikes. Yeah, I don't mind her like little ditzy kind of baby doll kind of like role that she was playing. Like she kind of reminded me a little bit of like Marilyn Monroe or something, like kind of like a cutesy kind of character.
Babe in the Woods,
yeah,
kind of
Babe
like,
in the...
yeah.
So I didn't mind that.
Yeah,
And
but
then
in the second half,
I think
I don't think she's terrible. I didn't hate her, but
no,
she's
yeah,
the
I think
one
so. In the
that
second half,
if I could
I
have
can see what
changed
he's saying.
something about this movie, I think you could have found someone better. That's all I'm
Mhm.
gonna say about that. But because this may be one of those situations where like directors and he's married to her at this point, right? Like it's hard to say, it's hard to. And Travolta pushed for her, so of course he's gonna stick her in the movie. He didn't even think he was gonna get somebody as good as Travolta at the time. He was just like, "Yeah, you don't want to be in this movie," and he was just like, "No, I want to be in this movie with your hot wife."
With your wife, yeah, exactly.
But you
Well,
liked
she
her.
plays
You
the-
liked-
I thought she did a good performance, and I think it actually works for the movie to have her kind of this lighthearted character because number one, it adds some, it adds kind of like some color into this really dark movie otherwise. So I think it's kind of nice. Their scenes together are very cute or whatever. But then also when she, spoilers, when she dies at the end, I think there's a bigger impact because she is kind of like this sort of like
yes.
innocent kind of character. She's kind of like a child almost a little bit, right?
Yes.
So I think it hits harder that she died. So it's like a loss of innocence kind of moment,
So before you came over today, before the game was on, I came home and I threw in Dress to Kill because I wanted to kind of see it a little bit of it again. And she's in that.
Mhm.
She is excellent in that movie. So I know she's not a bad actress. I know this to be the fact. So that was what questioned me saying she's purposely playing this ditzy character. So maybe it's really just more that than it is her doing a bad job. I don't know. It's kind of blurred the lines a little bit for me because I watched her in that other movie and it's a completely different character. Well, she plays a call girl in that movie, but she's not talking like an infant like she is in this one.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
you just said that like De Palma is like a really demanding director or whatever, right?
Right.
So he probably wanted her to do that, right? So that's more like a
right.
maybe a direction, like right? If
Yeah, we're
more
giving
like
her
a
short
critique of
shrift. Yeah,
direction, maybe that's not
fair.
because if he wanted her to play a more mature kind of character, she could probably do that too, right?
right.
So
How about you, Julie?
I don't think I've actually
No, go ahead.
I don't think
Go
I've
ahead.
actually seen anything with her before.
Oh
Nancy
no.
Allen. No.
If
I
you
don't
guys,
think-
if you guys like this, I honestly,
Yeah.
and you said De Palma's like a big, like, great, like, you haven't seen much De Palma. I would definitely check out Dress to Kill, and
Mhm.
I would check out
Carrie, right?
Carrie's good, of course, but I would say Dress to Kill and the Body Double,
Body double.
which is crazy. Like, it's just so friggin' weird. That one's
Mhm.
like the weirdest of his films that I've watched, but they're all very similar in the way that they're done, like around this period. The way if you liked this, those other two are definitely worth checking out, honestly.
cool.
And what's his name's in Dress to Kill? Michael Caine.
Oh, nice.
Michael Caine's in Dress to Kill. Who's
Nice, nice.
excellent in that movie. So yeah, and Nancy Allen's in both of those movies as well. So, but Julie, what'd you think of her?
I kind of agree with you in that I feel as though she looked the part, but like you were saying in the first half, I was like, I don't know, I'm not really sold on this bit. And then in the latter half, I'm like, okay, like I kind of get what they're going for, like you were saying, Babe in the Woods type shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree with you in that. I couldn't get a sense for whether I felt like it was overacted or if it was just I like just wasn't sold on it in the beginning, but I do think that she looks the part for like the damsel in distress shit that was going on. But yeah, I think I agree with you in like they could have maybe cast it better, but like it wasn't bad.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm saying it was terrible or ruined the movie for me, and not so. She's fine in it. I
have more beef with like other random side characters about how it was acted.
Okay, no, do tell. I mean, this is kind of where we're going into
I
things.
feel like I know which one you're going
like-
to talk about.
You wanted me to
Dennis
get
Franz.
I don't know. I don't
think
know
it's
anybody's
Dennis-
names.
Chicago fucking
The
accent.
one that's like
The NYPD blue guy, right? Is that
the one that's hugging the Scotch bottle
Yeah.
in every scene he's in, right? That one.
yeah, Dennis
I want
Fred.
to
Yeah,
be
is
Tony
that what it is?
Soprano.
Was that the guy that was like her
All
like
the
the
food on that
photographer guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
No.
no.
Oh, go ahead. What didn't you like?
I
about-
don't know anybody's names.
Which
I
character?
didn't like
Killer?
no, he was fine. Although John Lithgow never can change his voice ever, and he is very much like
Boy, it
Christopher
was
Walken
horrible.
or any one of those other ones that has like such a distinctive voice and they just can't play. Not that I think that John Lithgow is a good actor, but like it just like it's so distinctive that it kind of takes you out of it for a minute. You're like, this is so John Lithgow. Anyway, do you want me to get like into my whole thread of likes and dislikes?
Go ahead. This is the part of the show, right? I mean,
Okay.
yeah, go for it.
I really particularly liked the attention to detail with like the analog processing of the audio and the video stuff, like for that time period, like that whole like sort of like giving you this inside sort of look at like how the sausage is made kind of thing, like that is really interesting to me.
I thought that was the stuff.
Yeah, I knew JT was gonna like that one.
Yeah.
And like a lot of my other points are all like very technical. It's not really based on like the storytelling. It was all just
God,
you know how I am.
technical.
You know how I am with the fucking editing brain, and like those are the things that I fucking pay
See, but
attention
this
to.
is why I said I think there's gonna be something in
Yeah.
this movie for everybody. I thought you were gonna like this stuff.
Same here.
Yeah. Okay.
Just in my like my osmosis knowledge from Levi and like sound design shit, like right. So it's like. Like stuff like that, I'm like, oh, this is kind of like a sort of like a nice wink at people in that industry, right?
Yeah.
That are like, look, we're trying to like do justice by what actually the process is. That's kind of nice.
Right.
I do also, you know, from my bullshitter video editor perspective, I've brought this up on so many episodes that I have such beef when they do afterthought slow motion. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? When they're like, they get into the editing bay and they're like, we should make this scene slow motion, and it just cuts the frame rate in half and it looks like shit.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate the proper planned use of slow motion near that end scene where he's like running up the
when he
steps.
grabs her and they circles around. Yeah, and the fireworks are going on.
But even before that, when he was just like trying to run through that crowd to get there, like that was all like proper use of slow motion, which I appreciate.
Yes.
It's so okay.
Even that driving scene.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like, so there's like 2-3 things that I had beef with, and they're all just technical for the most part. So I did. You guys like that, or you like that spinning shot? You think that's the best shot in the movie? I did not like that spinning shot.
Wow, that's a hot take right there. Really?
I didn't like it. I didn't like it, but it's like
that's like the shot of this. Well, there's lots of good shots, but
this
like
is what I.
impressive to me, anyways. Like,
Yeah, I understand that, and now that you've given that take and you've watched that thing, and that I can like wrap my head around from the technical perspective, like that's really impressive. Like that must have been super difficult. I can appreciate the hard work that went into that shot. I think it lingered too long. I think it lingered too long. Like it could have been shorter than that. I know that the intention of it was to be purposefully disorienting because he's trying to figure shit out. And like, but I just felt myself so taken out of the narrative by how fucking sick I felt from the spinning.
Nice.
I was so
desired result, probably though. That was.
I understand, but like the point could have been made in less time. That's what I'm thinking. Is like it lingered too long.
But that's the other thing too. I liked about this. No, point well taken though. I get what you mean, but like that was what's good about this is because he actually uses the camera, like the POV. It's almost like you're in this movie. He does so many shots in this movie that he's trying to grow the paranoia, like in the film itself, as the
for
viewer.
Sure.
Like there's so many up shots of a guy like in a window, or like down shots of like, let's look at like what's going on. Like when Dennis Franz like jumps on her, like almost rapes her in that one scene.
Yeah.
Like they do like an up shot, like kind of panning away all of a sudden. There's just like so many interesting kind of like I felt like angles and things that he's doing. Like he's just playing with like different like things throughout the whole film, which I kind of like thought like added to the experience in that sense.
For sure. Like, and like to even point to that scene, like that's great. That's dynamic. That's fucking disorienting for the sake of the tension and the suspense. And I totally get that.
Right.
I just didn't like how long that spinning shot went on. I feel like the point was made 2 rotations before it was over. That I was like, and even to the to its point, like it was giving time for you to understand that he was looking for something or he was trying to figure something out. But I was so distracted by how fucking sick I felt that I couldn't pay attention to what the story even was.
In addition to that, though, I really liked after they show the aftermath of the room. Like, there's a scene where he's just sitting there, and you see, like, from an up shot again, or down shot. I guess it's like looking from up down, like, just everything just in a disarray, like in the room,
a shit pile. Yeah,
you see like things spinning still, and like reels going, and like beeping.
Yeah.
I just it's so fucking cool, like how they set up that scene.
And to cap it off with that, it's enough to like make the point of like he just tore the room apart trying to figure something out. Like I just feel like it could have been shorter. It's still a cool shot, and I do appreciate it more now from the perspective of like knowing how difficult it was and what they did to like try and do it properly to make sure that no camera equipment shit like that was seen. Nobody was seen. There was no shadows. Like they were doing a lot to make sure that you weren't taken out in a moment where you're like, oh, I just saw the reflection of some dude, or I saw a cable. Like there are parts in the movie where they fucked up and you can see the camera guy's shadow. Yes. You could see film equipment over top of the Jeep scene when he fucking crashes into the storefront. Like there's little blips like that, but
that one. Okay. Yeah.
There's little blips like that, but it's all happening so fast and there's so much dramatics going on that you miss it. Like you wouldn't even notice.
Yeah, like these other things like the opter shots and all that, like that's technically simple stuff that just isn't really used as much. And like in comparison to certain things like that he did in this movie, I just know that like from what I've heard, like direct, like people that is the shot from this film that most people talk about is that spinning rope.
Is that spinning shot. And because it is impactful, I just like, hopefully it's for the right reasons. It's not because people are stuck to the same idea that I did, that I was like, I am motion sick now.
I also don't think they knew how he fucking did it at the time. Like it was one of those things where it was like a groundbreaking thing.
It's like a brain breaker. I'm like, how the fuck did they do that? Yeah, you're probably right.
I think it's more that.
So there was that. I had beef with a couple of random side characters that were overacted to shit, and they were like borderlining on transatlantic accents. Like fucking I know that the Donahue guy, like the news anchor guy, like okay, I could not hear anything except for Troy McClure.
You want to know something? He is an actual news anchor from Philly.
Of course he is. Of course he fucking is. But like, so I felt like that was like, it wasn't like hacky.
He's not an actor in that sense.
Then that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was just like, I felt really kind of distracted by like, this is hammed up a lot. Like that felt, but like whatever, that like wasn't a huge amount of beef. The other one that I was really bothered by was the guy that was like the advisor for the governor at the beginning when they're in the hospital and he's like, we're going to forget this whole thing. I'm going to pay everyone off. That guy, that was overacted to shit.
Love that part.
I hated that guy.
John McMartin.
Whoever it was, I was like, this is...
You want his family to know that he had his hand up the girl's dress?
That was so overacted to me, and I was like, okay, we get it.
I knew Nico had the accent down.
I couldn't deal with that guy. The other thing that whatever, those are my like small technical, or not even technical, but small like character beefs. My only other major beef was the believability of, we're going to take these tiny magazine photos and I'm going to put a fucking protractor and a piece of glass on top and turn it into a movie. But I can understand. I'm suspending. Hold on.
Favorite scene.
Hold on.
Shit.
I can suspend my disbelief for the storytelling, but I do have beef with it is a factual fuck up. That I'm like, okay, but that's because I know too much, because I know that's me nitpicking because I know the industry. Okay. So that was the only other thing I had beef with on believability's sake. Is
what
that
scene exactly? Sorry,
I think she's talking about
when he cuts out all the newspaper photos and then he takes those.
Oh yeah. Okay.
To an enlarger and then turns it into a film reel and then turns it into a 24 frames per second stop motion movie at a way higher quality than what newspaper clippings are going to give you.
Yeah, right. I'm surprised they
But-
showed every single
is it?
I like
frame.
when he flipped
Yeah,
it.
Like,
That
would
was-
that even be a thing?
that was like an 8-minute scene too when he
Yeah.
actually did all that shit. But I still think it's so fun. Okay, that's fair if it wasn't
The
actually
believability of it is garbage. However, from the technical side of things, of like showing him how the sausage is made, kind of thing, that I can appreciate. That I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's dedication that he went that
Yeah.
deep on that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can excuse that one on the premise of
Right.
they're doing the attention to detail of like how this could be possible.
So that you had a hard time believing, but not the fact that Travolta used to work for some fucking cops. It was like he wired people up.
Side gig, I guess. I don't know. I was
Which
too
is
distracted. I
Also,
was too dizzy. I was too dizzy by the end of the fucking movie that I couldn't come up with any of my good points.
No, that was good. No, that was good. I liked your points. That's good.
I did think, and the other one that I thought lingered a little too long, but again, it's not even a huge point of contention for me, was that spinning shot at the end with the fireworks and shit. It was really great. It was well filmed. It was fucking really impactful, and it was a split diopter. I think.
Yes, it looked like it. Yeah, with the fireworks in the background and
It seemed to be.
holding her. Yeah.
So it's probably one of these split diopters. So there's like a single. Sometimes a split diopter is like half, like it's a half glass, like a half moon, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's like this, and there's like a single,
That's
like
what he
a
was
split
saying.
out of the middle.
He said every time you have to do one of those shots, you got to decide where you want to make the cut. That's what he was trying to explain, like in the actual interview. Yeah, to your point there. That's so,
Which is cool.
I don't know like how he would have did that one, but it kind of gave like it almost gave like a fake ass effect almost.
Yes,
but
it looked like CGI.
Right, but then you notice that you're like, no, this is literally him shooting fireworks and literally shooting him at the same time, and then like it looks fake almost. Like I can't stress that enough. The first time I watched this, I was just like, I haven't seen anything that looks like this movie before.
Yeah.
It looks almost cheesy to a point where I'm just like, this looks dumb. And then I'm like, oh no, this is actual filmmaking going on here. Like,
Respect on the fact that it was
him,
practical
doing all this
effects.
crazy shit I've never heard of before, right? And
Total fucking respect on like practical usage of effects in filmmaking.
Yeah.
I totally respect that. But that similar thing, not that it was dizzying, but that shot lingered a little, or sorry, not that one. The one before where he's like realizing she's dead and they're just on his face while he's reacting to it. That one lingered too long. I was like, we get it. He's like confused, can't believe it's happening. It just, that dragged on a little long. And then we got to the fireworks scene and I'm like, okay, here we go. This is like an actual impactful, dynamic, moving shot where it keeps interest. And that one didn't linger quite as long. And I feel like it's excusable.
Right.
But yeah, everything that I had beef with, pretty minor as far as a Nico pick is concerned.
Yeah, I think this is the movie you like the most out of everything
I would say so. That was going to be my summary. Is like, I think this is my favorite pick of yours so far that I've been a part of an episode with.
Great. Good there.
Yeah.
Oh no, just all the way we had a good time with it too, actually. But,
That's true. I got no beef with that movie at all. Yeah. That's a straight nostalgia movie, and I'm down.
That was a collaborative pick, though. That one. That
you're right.
Yeah.
That was teamwork.
Jay, how about you? What likes, dislikes about the movie?
Well, I like that. I like the whole the audio aspect and trying to add it to the film and that whole, and how he always, I don't know, that intriguingness with John Travolta. Just how he's kind of circling. He's kind of looking in the direction that he was hearing the noise. Because his ears was like, tuned to certain things. Even when, in like a hospital scene, when he's starting to hear everybody individually. Like those are trained. That's the trained type of a hearing, right? Like, because you do it, I guess, for a living or whatever. But then seeing a lot of the old equipment and stuff like that, so I enjoyed that part. And then to throw in the action at the end, I was up for grabs with it. Like I was debating, I was walking that line. They have to get into something other than him just trying to free himself like an enemy of the state sort of thing. There has to be some sort of crazy action scene coming soon. And then sure enough, you get that whole other aspects with John Lithgow and how everything's just going down. That's its own background story. It's in itself, right, in the movie. So it was really interesting. I liked it. I don't really have too many dislikes about it. I mean, yeah, okay. Like I said, maybe the first part of it did drag on a little bit, but I think when it came down to the action part, I think they gave me just enough that I needed to know. But yeah, it does have that sort of weird ending too. It's like, good guys never, they can't win even if they're right all the time, right?
It's
So
not even that. I mean, it's just like, yeah, I mean, we could talk more about the ending after because I'm sure it's going to come up here when we discuss scenes. But like, yeah, I do want to know all of your opinions on that because it is very, like I said, I was shocked the first time I watched this movie. I was just like, whoa, like, I did not expect that to happen. Right. So, yeah, no, it was, it really, I don't want to say it saved the film for me, but it kind of like, it could have just ended with them kissing and the fireworks and everything else. And I would have thought,
But that's predictable as fuck.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he went for it, like in terms of
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, that was a ballsy choice on his part, honestly. And he wrote this film as well. So like, yeah, it's all credited to De Palma on that front, right? So
yeah, I wasn't really focused so much on the photography as I was more on how the audio aspect of it, how it all worked and how they were,
like the
that's what they were trying to
technical
figure
talk
out.
about stuff, you mean? Like how he's capturing sound,
Yeah.
this kind of stuff.
And
Yeah.
then the old, recorders and stuff, and you could, literally pinpoint exact noises and stuff. This is
Right.
before, like, obviously we have computers and digital technology
He
now, right?
was syncing the sounds with the film
Not
kind
even
of
so much
reel.
that part. Yeah, he's trying to figure out and every distinct sound like that he's
Yeah.
getting, right?
Yeah.
So I mean that part of it, as opposed to the film part,
Yeah.
that was more of an interest to me in that
I like
sense.
what you said about Travolta as well, because to your point about Travolta, you actually believe that Travolta is doing this for a living in this movie. That's actually one of the most impressive things about it. I could totally see him like
Yeah, he's
being this
holding.
guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's doing stuff in this.
He
Yeah.
sold it.
He's doing stuff in this movie
Yeah,
where you're like, that's a guy that actually does this for a living. Like that's like it's
he
and
studied
obviously,
it for sure in that sense,
yeah,
and
yeah.
somebody else doing it, right?
Maybe De Palma was like hanging out with my sound engineers or like a designer for this film or something, right? Because I mean, that's literally how you got the idea. It's because he was giving his sound designer shit for reusing a fucking wind effect, right? Which I think is hilarious that it actually came from personal experience. And I just love movies about movies. I mean, that's half the reason why we like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I'm sure, right? Like that's
yeah.
I mean,
I'm personally not a fan of that so much, but there are exceptions.
You don't like
I don't
that.
really like
okay,
that.
sorry,
But
I thought
when
you
it's
shared
done,
that,
when it's
interest.
done exceptionally well, like this, and the
Right.
movie you just mentioned, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and like Boogie Nights, and there are a few exceptions, but I generally don't like movies that are about. I don't like movies about movies. I don't like movies about writers.
Okay, I
I
thought
don't
we
like
shared
movies.
that interest. I like that stuff.
Yeah,
Like
I'm not like I don't really like
inside
that.
baseball type stuff. Well, so
Yeah.
anyways, what were your likes and dislikes about this?
I just like I think I mentioned in my opening, like I like the craft of filmmaking. Like you kind of get this sense when you watch this movie that like De Palma is like he's like a kid in a sandbox and he's just having fun. He's just experimenting with a bunch of shit and seeing what sticks. And I kind of miss that energy. I wish that was more in movies these days because I feel like nowadays everything feels like it's being made by the
Cycle?
same exact person. There's no like individuality anymore, I feel. And this is like a very standout sort of individual statement, which I really, really appreciate. Yeah, the scene that you guys are talking about, the one where he like checks all his tapes and stuff, I didn't really pay attention to that until the second time I watched it. And yeah, that's when it stood out to me. I was like, whoa, this is really, really good. I like the syncing of all the sounds, how like one sound kind of builds up. I kind of like that in songs too, in music, when like you'll hear a track and then there's like another track overlaid and it just builds up into this like large kind of symphony of sounds. So I really like that part as he's going through. And then I'm just looking at it, I'm like, like you said, all the cues that Travolta has to hit, that's not easy. That's really hard, and he just does it. And
Yeah, because he's like throwing stuff in the frame.
yeah,
of the
he's going in
camera.
and out of the room
He's
stuff.
he's like throwing things off the shelves. He's like opening shit.
It's crazy
stuff,
and it's all in one take.
Yeah,
right. It's all in one seamless take.
Well,
right?
he said he had to do like a million takes, but it's all one take.
It's impressive stuff, and so yeah. And then I think overall, I just like the humor of it. Like it's almost like I feel like De Palma's kind of playing a joke on the audience because
absolutely
the whole movie is just the hunt for a scream that they're using in this like little shitty like low
Yeah.
budget movie, right? This horror movie,
A
and
horror
then there's
film.
all this
Yeah.
crazy plot that has to occur
Right.
just for him to get
Right.
the fucking scream
Right.
at the end. And yeah, I just think that's hilarious.
And
Like
he
I
kept
think it's like
bringing it up through the film. Like,
Yeah.
there was that one scene where he's like, I gotta go, I gotta take care of something. He's like, how about these three?
Yeah.
Keep looking.
that part
Yeah.
keeps coming up, and you keep forgetting that because he's getting lost in this
Right.
conspiracy plot, and then you're like,
He's like, what am I gonna do about this movie?
and then the ending is just a beauty where he's like smoking the cigarette, and the guy's like, "Oh, it's a great scream! Like you did a good job." And then you just see Travolta's face is so like defeated and stuff. He's sweating.
Smoking.
He's just been through like so much. He's been through like his own war, and he's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good scream. And
Yeah.
I just thought that was like, it's really hilarious. And I you know what, I like the movie how honest it is, because it's like you think that when John Lithgow kidnaps her, that this guy's gonna turn into like James Bond or some shit, and he's gonna like, no, but it's honest. Like this guy's in, like, he's a little over his head a bit, like a
Yeah.
little over his head,
Yeah.
crashes the car. And so I just like that honesty. I feel like that is like sort of like when I hear Tarantino talk about like the cynicism that like existed in like 70s filmmaking. I know this movie came out in 81, but it definitely
it's right
feels
there, though. It's right there.
it basically
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
It definitely feels like one of the like the remnants of that 70s
Yeah.
era. And I feel like this movie has that energy and spirit of like, I guess it's kind of what you were talking about, the whole like JFK thing about like Americans feeling that,
Yes.
you know, they're the little guys and they're kind of helpless in the face of the government and stuff.
There's
And I
a
think
lot of commentary on their politics at this time in
exactly.
this movie,
And I
like
think
how they perceive the government, because the whole
Absolutely.
movie they're trying to cover something up. Where she
wasn't like, what was that Watergate thing that was
Right.
happening and
but
shit
he
like
could
that,
have
right?
just
Like,
walked away from all this. He decided not to. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's like, I'm not letting you just erase
Yeah.
whatever happened here. Right.
he also
That was-
he had his own history with that cop that he let
Yes.
die on the job
so
or whatever.
he was just like, so it was really more of his own personal
Yeah.
like vendetta in this film that ultimately got Nancy Allen killed. Like,
Yeah.
that, it was his fault. Like,
It
let's be
kind of
honest.
reminds me of, this is not like a movie pairing or whatever, but it kind of reminds me of kind of like the same thing with like Taxi Driver, if you guys have seen that movie, where this guy comes back from the Vietnam War, and then he comes back in New York City, like from his POV, New York City is like this hellscape area, to the point that like, oh, you could fight this war overseas, come back to the US and like potentially get mugged at like a convenience store or some shit. It's like this sort of growing cynicism in like
Yeah.
our system and in our politics and stuff. And I feel like De Palma is definitely playing on this sort of idea.
See, and I think that's so important for a movie like that, because you have to take that into account to better inform the story and the character and his outlook on things and how the story is told in it. Like, if you really don't take those things into consideration, you can have a totally different outlook on that movie.
Absolutely.
Without actually taking those things into account. And I actually didn't look at this movie at all about the kind of like the politics behind it or the conspiracy or the government stuff, honestly, until these watches in preparation for this show and kind of learning more about it and where he got the idea for the JFK, with the JFK stuff and all that kind of stuff. Because that was something that he said because he said this around the time the Zapruder films were coming out.
Isn't that mentioned in the film? I think in this film,
Yes.
it's name dropped. There's a Zapruder thing.
Right. And then there's like this whole thing where this guy used to be a snitch for crooked cops. Essentially, he's working for an organization that was trying to capture, like, and he also was in the war, they mentioned in this, and then he went into this organization and then basically just fell into the movie shit because he was so traumatized from what happened, right?
You know what's so crazy? Actually, I just thought in my head, like, we were just talking about JFK and stuff, and earlier I said that like Nancy Allen's character is kind of like Marilyn Monroe. Wasn't that a thing between the two, JFK and Marilyn Monroe? And so I wonder if that has anything to do with it. And he was like sleeping with her on the side while cheating on his wife and stuff. And so I don't know. That's kind of, I don't know. Maybe that's
maybe that's showing a little bit of political aspect at it.
You know,
like a turn if people are actually looking that far into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. There's more to be found there in terms of like the story of it. That's why it's good to know sometimes the influences like behind like certain films is like where the director's head was at when he wrote this, and etc.
Yeah.
All right.
And then I think just one last thing I was gonna say about like Tarantino. Like, I remember he always said that he always hated the 80s because the 80s, like, the endings were too happy and shit. And so like it kind of really informs me why he likes this movie so much, because this movie doesn't like compromise itself at all. Like, it's not like,
no,
it didn't turn into what the trend would eventually become, where every ending has to have like a bow and arrow, and every average Joe is not like the average Joe anymore. He's like some
Right.
super agent or some shit, and because that would have probably what happened in like today's day. Like if that was like this movie was being made today, like she
No
probably would have
winners, no losers.
Yeah, like
even back then, though, I mean, there was definitely darker films because, like, again, like a lot of people, like the world was changing and people were just trying to, like you said, there's a lot of cynicism going around about the government, how the people trust the government and all this other stuff. So I think that there was a lot of maybe darker, more mature material in the 70s, and then going into the 80s, that kind of went out the window. And I think, like you said, that's his huge beef with it, right? But I just think there is a lot of examples where he would have saved the day at the end of it.
exactly.
Right? And
that it shocked me when I saw it. I was like, oh shit, okay.
Right.
This is what this movie is? Okay.
So like we're going to get into scenes and quotes here, but since we're on the topic right now, let's talk about the ending. So it sounds like we all liked it. The ending, though, like to actually use her scream in the film is the most fucked up. Like one of the most.
That's a wild take.
Right,
fucking cherry on the top,
and it'll forever. Like the fact that he grabs his it rings through his ears and he like tormented by it at the end. It's just like icing on top because like when he does that, he just smokes. It's a good scream. Good scream. Like he just looked like he just smoked a fucking pack of cigarettes and he's sweating profusely. And like but then he's like like when he hears his scream, he's just like
torturing himself.
The fact, like you said, Jay, like how they brought it all back around together again, or you mentioned it about how like it's an ongoing theme throughout the movie, and then they kind of brought it and used that as like as the ending of this film. It's just like, he failed, and like at the end of the day, what did he learn? Like I guess he got some sort of justice because he killed the killer, but really, he
cleared his name.
Yeah, but it's what's interesting about this is the conspiracy. It doesn't even go as deep as he assumed because this guy took it upon himself, John Lithgow, to create all this. Right? Like they told him there was that scene where they told him, "This is not what we wanted. Don't do this." He's like, "Yeah, don't worry. I'm gonna start."
Part of the first agreement, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna start killing people just so it throws them off the scent, and I'm gonna kill people that look like this person. You know what I mean? Like it's so messed up. Like John Lithgow, his line of thinking in this movie, he's just
like a psychotic.
Yeah, just like really totally goes off the rails. And they're like, "I did not tell you to do this. Do not do it."
It looks like he's doing it for fun. Like he's got that even his own little strangler cord, like his Boston.
Yeah.
The watch, like the piano wire, almost like.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He zips it. Yeah, that's sick. I like that too. But okay, I'm gonna mention, I guess I'll throw it out a couple of scenes because we're in scenes and quotes. So throw out quotes or scenes, guys, or we've combined the categories now essentially. What do we got here? So basically we already talked about it through the opening stuff, but my two favorite scenes, or three, let's say, are the shot, the room spinning. Just again, because of how technical it is, I just really enjoy that scene. The ending, of course, and honestly, and there's more, but these are my favorite. The scene of him putting together the flip book stuff and doing all that technical stuff in that 8 minutes stretch or whatever.
Those are cool. That was.
And I actually just noticed for the first time, I never noticed this before, but in preparation for this watch, I didn't see that he slipped into the animation department of his little studio workplace when he did that. So that kind of was really cool when I noticed that this time around as well. I was like, oh, okay. And, I'm saddened to hear, like you said, Julie, they couldn't get it to the perfection of like whatever he kind of made in this scene, like in reality. But the fact that he was syncing up, like the whole part when he's like rewinding
the
and
X's.
And he takes the felt pen and he puts the X on the actual film, and he wants to sync up the sound like exactly where like the blowout of the shootout of the tire actually occurred, because it was
but he was using also like his finger as that's how he was recording in that night, right?
Well, that was when he goes to the motel, though. That scene's also cool because in his mind's eye, he's trying to remember everything that was going
scene
on.
By scene,
Owl. That scene was cool too. But I really liked when he went into the animation studio and kind of took it upon himself. Like, I'm going to create like a little piece of video here to illustrate that I was correct about. It wasn't a blowout. It was a shootout of the tire that killed the governor, right? Because the whole thing is the governor was going to be president. And that's why they killed him, right? Like it was a whole political kind of, although they didn't want to kill him, they just wanted to frame him, make him look bad with that woman, and take dirty pictures of him with it, and that was the whole idea. But then again, Lithgow's insane. They hired this crazy person who kills him, and he wasn't even supposed to go off into the creek as the guy pronounces it in this.
Correct.
Listen,
That's so Southern Ontario shit. Just to call it a crick instead of a creek.
Yeah, don't lie, Julie. You call it a crick. Come on.
I do.
Yeah.
100% I do. My dad says it. I've taken on that same thing. I call it a crick.
But here, Max, how about you? Any other
There's
scenes?
two
that you
E's.
want to end there?
I
got more, but we'll go around.
So like besides that like rotating scene, I you know there. So I think there are three like major standout scenes as far as like when Travolta is like doing the recording part, and so like the first one, I guess the car accident, the car like the actual is probably like the first one when he's like
That's great too.
he's like he was using that, I guess, what is it, like a boom mic or whatever that is? It's like
of
a
some sort, like what is that,
Yeah,
Julie?
it's probably like an extension
A
for
mic
the
that's
audio.
like-
It's like a shotgun mic, but it's like it's a certain type of
magnifier.
directional mic. I can't call back to what the actual type is, but it's like a shotgun mic.
he's able to like record sounds
I
from
know
like
one
a
of those.
distance and shit, right? Like from like a far distance. And
Yeah.
that scene when he's just like first he like sneaks on the couple and they're like,
Oh,
why
yeah.
is that weirdo looking at us? Like that was just fun. And he's like laughing too. He's just like
Yeah.
just chilling, like enjoying it. Like and then he does like my favorite like shot of the movie is the owl. When he does the
Yeah.
owl, and then there's like an owl.
And they squawk.
Yeah.
And that I think is a split diopter one as well.
Yeah, that is just that was the one I was like, okay, that was when I first noticed that the Palma was like doing so.
They just doing all the hoots.
Yeah. And then you see it gets the owl gets bigger, right? It
Yeah.
comes bigger and bigger. It zooms in,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like showing you how he's doing the technique. It's like the Palma is like kind of informing the audience of the technique. So it's like that's what I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. Yeah. So then that's like a really good scene. That basically like the whole car crash when he sees the car go off the bridge or whatever, and then he does something that is so like I know like Hitchcock has been thrown out there. Hitchcock is such a Hitchcockian thing when Travolta goes into the water to save to go to dive in, after the car, and then you see the guy in the background. He's like, what is this random guy?
Yes.
That is such a Hitchcock thing.
I
Like
did not catch
yeah.
that the first time.
Yeah.
And then
No?
when I watched it the second time, I caught that.
it's like crafting suspense by throwing just like random like
Right.
unexplainable like things in the background.
Yeah.
That is so Hitchcock.
And then
Like, if
later
you see-
on,
And then running on the bridge there.
has footage, and you're like, how does this fucking guy have footage? And then you don't realize that it was him.
that was him. That he was filming. Which I guess if there is a nitpick, the filming of the car crash, it didn't seem like he was from that angle that he was standing at. You know what I mean?
That's
No.
one of the things on the IMDb. They're like, this is a factual error from where he was standing. He wouldn't have been able
Yeah,
to
it doesn't
get
look
that
like
angle.
the angle that he would have filmed. But I guess maybe he moved later on or something. I don't know. But like,
I never thought about that. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, because then later they bring up like, oh, who filmed this stuff? It was like, how is there a guy filming there? Like, and then it
Yeah.
made sense like when I saw it the second time. But yeah, so that's like that's a good scene of mine. And then I guess I'll throw out another scene when he, and this is calling back. You mentioned the conversation when he listens to the audio and then he like visually pictures what was going on,
The
like
motel scene.
the motel scene.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
what
think
Jay
that
was saying,
De
yeah.
Palma was definitely. I haven't seen that original blow up that
Me
this
neither.
is
Me neither.
but I
I've
have
seen
seen
the conversation.
me
though.
too.
Yeah.
And that is another scene from the conversation when Gene Hackman's character re-listens to it and he discovers something new from another POV and stuff.
Just a quick little thing about that. You know what I just recently heard and
Mm.
learned about this, which is just brilliant on Coppola's part. He apparently mixed in different audio to those scenes to throw off
Oh,
the
wow.
viewer of the movie. So
Interesting.
there's a scene in this conversation he's talking about where like he's basically picking up this conversation of two people, and while he's examining the actual audio of it, he recorded different things, so it was never the same things that were kind of being said on the audio. I hope I'm describing it correctly, but basically he did it purposely to throw
Mhm.
the viewer off, so you also think you're going crazy because you're like,
Yeah.
isn't this how the conversation went before? Why is it different now? It's such a little thing though, and it's so cool that he thought about doing something.
You know,
like that.
I really like the conversation. I think I like this more because I think this is like
so do I.
This is
I just recently watched Conversation too. I like this more.
Conversation is a great film, but I think this is like a more like thrilling kind of
Yes.
take on this sort of story. So yeah. So I'll pass it around. So before I say more, like before I
Jay?
take everyone's parts.
I like that hospital bit You know, like when he first started to, when he started to see the, well, yeah, he went to go see her. The best part was walking around in the hospital smoking a cigarette, bro.
Yeah, different times,
That
eh? Yeah.
that was, and
The time
okay,
to be
this was
alive.
filmed in
The good old
81. I
days.
mean,
What a country.
we hey, we didn't have a fighting start to begin with. If people wonder why I smoke so much, but
I
yeah,
did make a note about the smoking as well in that scene. It's
fuck
great.
me, man.
It's great. He's like walking. He's literally walking
Maybe
out of like
emergency.
jars too. He's
Yeah,
like,
like
and then there's an ashtray right before
Outside
Nancy
the room.
Allen's Yeah.
right
Yeah.
before every room. Like, what the fuck? It's like
Brilliant.
it just like, I mean, it doesn't seem like that long ago, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
No.
when you see it in a movie, it still throws you, right? Like that threw
The
me for a loop. But
hospital
that
really throws me. Like if you see somebody smoking in a restaurant in movies, I remember that. Like that I remember,
yeah,
but the
hey,
hospital, I'm like, whoa, this is wild. Like, these
yeah,
guys.
I
The
did
US is
not
still
know that.
kind of like that. Like you can't smoke in the hospital, but you can kind of smoke anywhere in the US. The Clean
Oh,
Air
yeah,
Act is
malls.
kind of only specific to us. Like they can do whatever the fuck they want down there. This is what I've learned.
I was gonna
I think,
save
yeah,
this
they
for
smoke in like the malls and stuff and everything still in certain malls down there.
Something like
Right?
that. Like the bars do not care.
No.
I was
Yeah.
gonna save this for like questions for for you guys, but I guess I'll just say it now because you brought up the smoking. Does like the smoking like just make everything cooler? Because I
No.
feel like every time he does something while he's smoking,
Nico
it's
says
just, like,
yes.
the scene is so much better with a cigarette in
I'm
his
like,
mouth.
yeah.
When he's like taping the film
And
together, and
she's
he's got a cigarette dangling from his mouth, and
Yeah.
it's just like,
Pretty much.
you know what I mean? Like,
well, and then she's
It
sparking
brings
a
it
cigarette
like
up too, like
it kind of like sells it, right? Like it's like, well, yeah, that's kind of how it was, and like
It was
it sort of grounds you in like the seriousness or like the tense. Like if you think of like people that are smokers,
oh, it
that's
makes
such
you
a
want to go for
reaction.
a
Like,
smoke.
bust out a cigarette because you're stressed. Like
you,
it
you don't
sells
see
it for me
smoking in movies like that anymore. Like,
No.
but
because it's
people are
kind of
still
a rule.
smoking
Thank God.
cigarettes, so I don't get why that isn't a thing.
No, picture it. That ending scene would be so shit if he wasn't smoking a
Yeah.
cigarette while sweating there. That makes the scene. No, it's true.
Absolutely, it's like a character in and of
Yeah,
itself.
it
You know?
adds
It's like
so
Yeah.
much to the actual scene in that sense. And if you look
it's a
cool
great,
Okay.
it's a
smoking,
great movie prop.
because there's famously really bad smokers too, right, in
Mhm.
movies. But like this guy, you could tell Travolta has smoked some ciggies before in this movie, right? Like and those are
Well,
probably real
coming,
cigarettes then too in that movie. This movie.
but yeah, no filter. Coming from a fucking, a smoker, bro. I don't know for the movies and all this stuff. Like, I'm really not opposed to like when we don't have it in restaurants no more. We don't have it in.
We don't have
There's
it in
certain
movies
things that
anymore. Do you know what? Like,
nothing,
do we see
but
like
it's
smoking in movies? I feel like I don't see them at all
Not as
anymore.
much.
Not, yeah.
no, very very rare
They
unless
don't
it's like
glorify
based on
it like
something
that.
older. Yeah, or maybe a few, but it's not. It's very limited, if anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, I don't know. It still throws me off when I see stuff like that in a movie. But the scene is great when he's taking her out of the hot, because they have that little talk with the politician there, right?
Yeah.
And they sneak him out the back door, and he's just half carrying her into the hotel room, right? And
Yeah.
he was like, well, first a drink because she wanted to go for a drink first, and then back to his place, now to a motel, like yeah, he was it was crazy dragging a drunk ass to you can picture that. It was just it was it was good it was fun to see, right? Like that, not like fun to see, but that I like that whole scene where then he starts getting out the tape and
He
starts
legitimately
trying to
seems
figure it
out of
out.
it, like, and confused in that scene too. Like he also sells that in that scene where I think she doesn't deliver it as good. She doesn't look
No.
like she just got into an accident, like the way she's acting, and he's like totally lost. Like there's people talking to him, and at one point he's like, "I'm sorry, what?" Like he's like not even like paying attention. Like it seems like at one point because he's so like focused on what's going on. But then the next scene you see him like smoothly walk in there and start flirting with her, and I was like, "Wow, this guy's going for it."
Just put his cigarette out. That was like the end. He comes with the shirt from Greece that he was still wearing from Greece.
Yeah.
The movie.
His chest hair is there, yeah.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
just starts busting out like
Yeah,
just
that
we'll
he
go for a
pulls
drink
it off
later.
though. I mean, he's smooth in this movie. Yeah, you can understand why she like literally this woman. He charmed her to stick around and risk her fucking life in this movie, and that's what got her killed. That's basically like she was about to leave town This guy's like, no, I need your help. I need you here to figure out what's going on here. All right, yeah. He's like, then, like, you know, like next thing you know, she's fucking dead. It's terrible.
Yeah, no, like I like how that first sequence starts, right? In that sense of how they get to really know each other. I mean,
Yeah.
the car scene is whatever, and off the bridge because I thought that was cool with the wand and just trying to listen into the sound, and I would have liked to hear it in something that had some sort of stereo, at least stereo quality sound, just to see if it was actually, um, moving from speaker, like from side to side, if you didn't move your head in a sense, like if you were getting that visual effect. I don't know if it was dubbed that way, like recorded that way. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
would have been cool, but I don't think in the 80s they had yet quite that technology to add it.
The
right?
presentation
Into,
on the Criterion collection is pretty fucking good. Like it looks great because those are like the high definition kind of like they do a
cuts.
really good job of cleaning up older films and stuff like Criterion collection releases, and I have it and it looks great. Like I was watching on my TV.
Well,
and
yeah,
the sound was good too. I get what you're saying, but
but I mean, I like to hear in the surround sort of setting, like just to see if it made any sense in that regards,
Yeah.
because I don't know if they had that. Like you said, would you say criteria
I'm just talking
Criterion.
about the Blu-ray
collection?
collection.
Yeah, the collection.
Sound,
Yeah,
I don't have surround sound, but the TV does have the thing where it will like project the sound like to like different
yeah.
places, and I don't think I recognize that while watching
But
it.
I'm wondering.
The theater did it do that? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that was a type in a theater where you got that, like in my head, because I was really into that part of the movie, right? Any scene that had to do with the audio, not so much to adding the visual to it, but with
Right.
the audio, because I like listening to things. I like fucking certain things like that. That didn't come
No,
out
I
right,
don't
but yeah,
know.
no,
Please
yeah,
describe
I know.
what you're
You
trying
know
to
what he's talking? This is all because he listened to it while he was in the car.
Yeah,
Well,
you didn't
no,
actually
I didn't.
watch the movie.
I didn't actually listen to that. I didn't actually get to listen to. I was gonna, but I've stopped doing that because I tend to fall asleep watching movies in the car head first. So
I watched a bit of it in the
put an
shower.
end
It
to
was
that.
okay.
It was okay. Oh, yeah, I basically did, but yeah, no.
Basically did.
But
All right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then that whole like that ending. I mean, there's so many little things like I can't say like crazy scenes, but like the way the driving scene plays out, and I
Great.
keep thinking,
Yeah, that's
how,
my
how
other
does
really big scene. That's great. The way the music is going, and how when he
yeah.
starts pushing people out of the crowd, that part's sick. Like at the end, like the
Well,
way it
you
all
know
kind
what I got a vibe from like the whole music, like the whole what were we calling it? The score.
yeah,
I was getting like a sort of like a circusy style thriller type, you know, with that score behind everything, even in the regular scenes, even in this more supposedly sensual scene. I like that first meeting when you see the guy with with Sally. She walks in there. What's his name? Manny there
yeah.
from yeah, that scene there when he's got all the fucking pasta sauce on his
His face is a
wife
big
on his
sigh.
wife beater. Yeah, he's drinking a bottle of J&B and he's fucking,
Like don't anybody the maids ever come and clean here? Oh yeah, but you got to be up early in the morning, babe. Or he's like, I'm never here. I'm never up early in the morning. Or he says some shit like that to her. And like this guy's disgusting.
bro.
Like
I'm trying to
this is right
watch it,
here
you
with
know.
the door open
Yeah,
and
yeah.
shit. That's disgusting.
The best is when he's practicing what he's gonna say to her, like before she gets
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh, I'm just watching
Sally,
this thing on
how's
the
it going?
TV.
Just watching this movie over here. Yeah. And apparently, the film that was playing on the TV was the first movie that De Palma ever did. Actually, that was another
Nice.
fact that I learned about it. So that's pretty cool. Julie, any scenes, quotes that you really enjoyed, standouts?
I kind of have two. I already talked about like I really liked all of those whole like procedural parts where it's just like showing you how he did everything and like that level of attention to detail. My other two that I have written down are that part where he's like recounting his own memory of recording while he's listening back and he's pointing the pencil as if it were the microphone, and how they like illustrated the back and forth of like between like they really focused on the tip of the pencil and like how how it's like panning around as he's like recounting it to himself. I really liked how that was done and how that was illustrated. And then it also like gave you like his POV from where he was standing versus what we saw from the third person perspective of the actual crash. So I really like that as like an illustrative scene. And the other one being the reveal of the watch as the fucking like as this mystery sound that like you kind of forget like that part isn't like, because so much has happened between like the point where you're like, what the fuck is that? Is that a fishing line? Like, what the fuck is that noise that he clearly hasn't?
That was a cool.
Like the director hasn't pointed to it as like a point of interest. But then you kind of forget that even happened, and then we get back to it and you hear it, and it like recalls like, oh, that's that fucking sound from the recording. I really liked that reveal.
That is a good design. The fact that he kind of put that in there.
Yeah. Those are the only two scenes I have written down. My other two things that I wrote down for lines, purely because they hit so funny, and the way that the words are hit, it just makes me laugh. Look, Jack, I didn't hire that girl for her scream. I hired her for her tits.
I had that written down too.
And then the other one about when he's like not interrogating, but when he's asking Sally about how she's connected to it all and whatever, and he said you got to look at some of her earlier work, some of your motel candid camera shots. You got nice tits. Who's paying you to flash them to McRyan? Yeah, just the way that that punchy way that they pronounce tits is really funny to me.
One of my favorites was, like you said, the character you didn't like, where he's like, "Who gives a damn that you were there? You want to tell his wife that he died with his head up some girl's dress?" The way he raises his voice when he says that too. He's like, "What the fuck's wrong with you, man? Like, come on, like, you want people to know this?" He's like, I don't know. I guess not. I don't know. Travolta's just like, he's like, "All right, I want to get out of here." I like that one a lot, and I also like when he's recounting like how they know each other and all the movies that they've done. After he says about that I hired her for their tits thing, he's like, "Well, let's see. I met you on Bloodbath, and then there's Bloodbath 2, Bad Day at Blood Beach, Bordello of Blood, and now Co-Ed Frenzy." Co-Ed Frenzy, I didn't tell you. I think this is our finest film. You can tell that he hates like the films they're making. He's like these shit fucking like slasher films that he's doing, right? He says it like later on, right? I just like how he's recounting all the fucking like generic names of those type of movies that were coming out at that time, right? Like Blood.
It's such like a horror movie trope too, like in real life. It's so funny.
But you could tell that he has like reverence for that kind of stuff in a way. Like this man did do Carrie, the filmmaker, even though like he's like, I'm not these guys. Like even like the opening scene is making fun of those type of movies where literally there's a girl masturbating in one room and another one they're having sex, and another one they're dancing. But like at the end of the day, he can still not make it. Like he can't get out of his own way. It looks amazing, that opening scene. You know what I mean? Like even if he wanted to make it like look shitty, like one of those movies, he couldn't achieve it. It seems like he's like, I know I got to make this look sick, right? Like the way that he was panning all the different rooms and all that. And then my other quote that I had here too, of course, is a classic one. It's when the guy's trying to work out how much he's going to pay for the blowjob at the train station.
Bro, that was so random. The fucking sailor guy, and that was like so fucking random. Yeah.
You want to talk about how great of a country it was at that time? This guy's getting a blowjob before he's getting on a train station.
In a payphone, yeah.
But then they go to the payphone. He's like pretending like he's on the.
Then he's like.
He like busts in like 2 seconds. I'm giving you $10. And then like Lithgow pulls like this fucking pro move where he like slaps the money on the fucking the phone booth. I thought that was hilarious. He's like,
and then she like pops a mint and goes and brushes her teeth.
Professional, very professional move. Yeah,
we appreciate.
That was very classy as a hooker.
She's like, I gotta freshen myself up. I'll be right back.
Yeah. She's like, she did like a 5-minute thing, right?
But John Lithgow, did the fucking creepy thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
From the other booth, man. That was the best.
That whole spiel where they're just like playing around with that name. You guys like 60 minutes for $60. I have 20 minutes and $20. It's like, how about 30 minutes and $30? Yeah, I guess I got 30 minutes and $30.
Yeah.
That whole exchange,
then,
like, why is De Palma throwing that in there? He's a horny guy, De Palma, though. Eh? If you guys watch his other movies, big fucking horn dog. In Dress to Kill, it's fucking like so much sex stuff in that. And
well, Scarface.
Yeah, but you got
hookers.
Trust me, you got to watch these other two movies. Like there's all kinds of nudity in these other movies as well. Like it's really good. He's good at what he does. And then yeah, just like he's like slower. Ah, shit. Listen, I'm jumping ahead. My whole question, my unique question was for you guys. You got to give her the $20 or $30, right? Like you busted it. That's not your. It's like, I mean, that's a scumbag move, right? Like he should have paid her fully. Like that's not her fault that you lasted 2 seconds during a blowjob.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, like that's. Come on, like
I'm not gonna pride herself on being that good and making it, just because I can't handle it. Boom,
Jay would give her the 10. Eh?
You negotiated your price. You got your nut. Give her the $30, bro.
Yes.
Well, no, I need 20 to get on the fucking train.
What would this guy rather want? These guys gonna sit there getting a blowjob for half an hour for fucking before he gets on the train? Like this is what I'm saying. I mean, that's what's great about it. She's in a place where people could like have that service before they travel. They're like, oh, I feel much better now. I'm gonna get on this train.
Back to my boys. I go.
Hey, they all look similar too. The hookers in this, they really all look kind of like.
Well,
that's
purposeful.
character.
No, he was doing that purposefully, so it would throw
because they were all supposed to look like her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I know that, but I mean. Like, okay, I guess because we just didn't see any other different types of call girls.
Right.
Sorry, hookers. Let's get it politically correct.
Call girls was nice. That was interesting.
Sex workers, Jay, come on now.
Sex workers, JT.
Anything else?
Women of the trade. Women of the trade.
Yeah, I mean, like Jay said though, the ending scene's amazing too, like the chase and the car and all that kind of stuff. That's the other really big one I had. But
I just like John Lithgow being such a creep, man. I don't know what it is about it. I don't know.
He sells it.
It does.
Pigs, vultures. You swallow a whole box of animal crackers.
That's a great line too. I forgot about that one.
You guys have any other lines or scenes?
I think from that exchange between the sailor and that hooker when she's like when he's like he says something I should have wrote this down. He says something if you know what I mean. And then she's like, "No, I don't know what I mean. If you know what I mean." Like he says,
"Well, if you're gonna go get ready, then it's 2 minutes off or whatever. So you saved me $2 or something like that."
He says, "You know what I mean?" And then she's like, "I don't know what you mean. If you know what I mean." Like I thought that was funny. And then I guess when he's like Travolta and Nancy Allen are driving and she's like, let's just go to a motel or whatever. And he's like, oh, first a drink, now my place, now a motel. It's like, we're moving pretty fast, Sally, or whatever. I thought that was a funny line.
You know what? You just reminded me one too. The other one I really liked too was when he's like, "Oh, I didn't know how good you looked with all that mud all over your face." After he sees her, he's like, "No."
She's like, I don't have any makeup on, and then they do this close shot of her face where she's clearly wearing makeup.
Mascara, on her eyes that are red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was right about. I seen that. I was like, that's too funny. Yeah, I'm mud in your face, and then she's going like this to cover up, and she's got more makeup on. And when they actually go on the fucking date, when they go to meet up,
no makeup look, Jay. Like that's
the natural look.
She had no makeup that day.
Look. Yeah, get out of town. Yeah, you don't care about this stuff. Travolta should have been like, no, I don't. Here's my dark past. Oh no, I find it really interesting. This is all great stuff. Remember, she's like, you don't want to hear this stuff. He's like, all right, I got a guy killed.
It's like, let me tell you my life story.
That scene's wild too. Eh? The guy's like sweating, and then the battery starts arcing or whatever the hell he says. It's like
overheating.
Yeah. That was great. That's like
open wires against the skin.
Yeah,
that was such a weird aside.
Battery,
that they just threw that in. That this guy had this like past, and that's why he's like so good at this kind of stuff. Although he sucks at it. anyways, I'm jumping ahead. Hot take. This is like the Vinny Chase. Was this guy actually good at his job?
Right,
category. Right. This guy did a terrible fucking job. He got 2 people killed. Let's be honest. This is totally Travolta's fault. This Jack character, he's the worst. Like, I get what he was trying to stop, like trying to like get back at the man or whatever in this movie, but he got this poor woman killed. Like, it
wasn't worth it. Yeah.
And then he puts her scream into a movie.
Yeah, but then he still listens to it and taunts himself over. Like, you don't know where he's going with this.
What
It's like he's all over the place.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah,
Jesus.
like he's literally taunting himself at the end.
It's so wild. That's what I mean. When you think of it like that, it's so fucking bizarre. That choice, right?
Yeah,
it's great. Like but it's true. Like if it wasn't for him, she would have been on the train out of town for a couple of months, like she had planned, out of his life. Like it's kind of tragic in that sense. And this guy, and all of a sudden, like this guy thinks he's like super cop. All of a sudden, I'm just gonna wire you up, and I'm gonna be following. So don't worry, Sally. Oh yeah, okay. And then she like goes right into the arms of John Lithgow, who like stabs her with a fucking ice pick. Right? Like that's brutal. It's brutal. I mean, that was the
tapping
whole
into the phone line. That was hilarious. See, John Lithgow get to tapping in.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other scenes or quotes around you? That's pretty much mine.
I think this is like a really good like indication at like her like maturity level is when she's like they're at her apartment and she's like what's John Travolta's character's name?
Jack
Terry.
Jack, he's like, Jack, would you like something to eat? He's like, yeah, sure. He's like, I'll fix you up like a bowl of cornflakes or something. And I was just like, I don't know. I thought that was kind of funny. It's like,
yeah, I remember that.
I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. He's like, sure. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. That's great. Yeah.
Like, okay, that sounds great. I really like the scene when he drops her off at the train station, and then you see John Lithgow's POV, like looking at them, and then it zooms out. John Lithgow on the balcony, it zooms out, and it's like he's just like a shadow amongst this whole crowd. I thought that was like a really, really like eerie scene. It was like really like he's about to like disappear into the crowd. So
many examples of that in this film.
Really, it is really a lot of great shots.
So many things that he does like that in this movie. Yeah, it's just this. Like even something like that, which is like a smaller scene, let's say, is really impressive when you're watching it.
I don't think De Palma ever really got like the same sort of like popularity that like Spielberg or Scorsese or Coppola did, but I feel like he's like on their level, like for real. Like when you see this movie, it's just so well crafted, it's so well directed.
So I was hearing them have this conversation on one of our go-to podcasts for films because they actually covered this movie before.
Oh really? Okay.
And I recall them mentioning at the time that out of all the film brats of this era, like you said, his contemporaries and stuff like that, you're right. They also argued that he isn't looked at the same way as them, even though like technically he's just as good, if not better than a lot of them. But the thing was about it is because of the type of material he chose to do.
Right.
His movies are very horny and very fucking dark and like very messed up.
But so are Scorsese's. So why did audiences respond to that one? Scorsese, like Taxi Driver, might be the most bleakest film I've ever seen. You know what I mean?
It is.
So I don't know.
But then I'll throw this into to your point there. Quentin Tarantino actually famously talked about this. He actually talked to Palma about. He actually got to meet him, and he was talking to him about Blowout, and he said at the time when this had come out. It was him and Scorsese, were like basically at friendly competition essentially with each other. So the movie comes out. Or no, I think it was Dressed to Kill. Yeah, this is the Raging Bull story.
Okay.
Anyways, Raging Bull, I think it was for Dressed to Kill, maybe not this movie, but Raging Bull comes out and he's like, there's always Scorsese. Like he thought he was gonna he had the movie of the year, right? Then Scorsese comes and brings out Raging Bull and fucking deflates his whole
you can see the genius. Right?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, so those guys were always at competition.
But that's good that they all came up in the same generation because it's like they were kind of all challenging each other.
Just like George Lucas and Spielberg, like those guys, same thing. Like
and Lucas also worked with Coppola. Like they were all have their own little web. They were all friends and stuff. Right. So it's
the contemporaries for sure.
Really good generation of filmmakers. So
any other quotes, scenes, guys? No. Okay, I think that's that's all I had
that
as well.
covers it.
Then, all right. Unique questions. Does anybody have any other unique questions? I think we threw out a couple. I threw out the
I
hooker
guess
one.
I guess we kind of like already kind of discussed it, but like, why do you guys think he decided to put the scream in the movie?
He couldn't find a better scream than that. Like
Yeah.
that's, I think at the end of the day, I think it was just like I think he was haunted by it, and he was just like he ran out of options. He clearly wasn't working on the movie for the last little while like he was supposed to, and he just like I'm gonna use this actual authentic scream. I don't think it was the wisest choice, but
I think in some like weird twist, sick version of his,
she could live on forever.
Yeah.
Yes, that it was like his ode to her and her helping him. Yeah, but like I don't know, that could be kind of a reach, but that was kind of how
I like that though. I like
that's what I
do
kind of
like
thought
because they're kind of immortalized as a result.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that she can live on through the fucking film that he is now tortured by.
I just heard that what's his name? Who just passed away? Darth Vader. James Earl Jones. He recorded all this shit for Disney before he died because they're going to use it for Vader stuff in future films. But this is done with his permission. It's not like they what I mean? Like you're using old audio.
Cool.
So that's apparently something that I heard that he had actually worked with them with, so they can immortalize that character on screen and continue to use James Earl Jones' iconic voice as that character without having to do some AI type of shit, right? So yeah, they've apparently got him, I think, to do like a bunch of stuff where they can. I think that essentially they are going to match his tone. Like they made him say a bunch of things that they can then use to emulate his voice or something like that. But he did record a bunch of stuff for them. So in that sense, that's
say
cool.
every word.
At least it's got his sign off for that. That's the difference, I guess.
Yeah, because it's such an iconic character, right? So I mean, that's very cool. Jay, any unique questions? Any questions you had for the group about the movie? Otherwise,
no, unique, nothing really. It was pretty straightforward. I thought, like I said, I thought it was certain parts of it were interesting, and certain parts of it were, a little different for me, but nothing unique. Right,
Julie?
Nothing out of the ordinary.
I didn't really come up with anything super interesting for this one. I've gone with this question before, but I don't even feel particularly strongly about it. But do you think that going with that as a title is super impactful? Like, do you think that they should have called it something else?
It actually was supposed to be called something else. I forgot what it was supposed to be called, but I think they changed it to this. And I think this is more because it's an homage to the other movie.
Blow Up.
Yeah. See, I didn't even know that before I wrote that down. So like it does kind of like, synchronize with it now that it is supposed to be an homage to this other film. That's
you're not wrong though. Like they were playing with the idea of not calling it this originally. Like, right?
I get why they did, because they're like, yeah, his whole conspiracy was that it wasn't a blowout and it was a gunshot, but it just doesn't feel
right.
Like that's the whole thing that sends him on this conspiracy that's not a conspiracy. That is the whole like deciding factor that like he knows that he heard this, he knows it wasn't a blowout, but I just didn't feel like it's super stuck for me that like that was the title of the movie. But I also couldn't think of anything else to call it based on what we saw.
Isn't that also like a sound term, blowout? Is that like an audio engineering term or something? Or
like
I don't know. Is blown out, or I don't know.
I guess like you could like you can blow out a speaker, but like I guess like looking at it from that angle, if they were like doing that, I guess that also makes sense. But that might be kind of lost on like the layman in the audience, right?
Also, like the botched blowjob is like a blowout.
True. You're right. There were a lot of blowout references
blowing
in the movie.
and a lot of outs.
Blown out. I'm all blown out over here.
Blown out.
That was the sex worker. Oh, yeah, listen, guys, all blown out over what Lithgow threw the money up to the.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I couldn't like reason with like I think it should have been called this or should like I was just I don't know if the title's super stuck for me. So but having that perspective now is at least better.
You know what was originally supposed to be called? Personal effects.
That's worse.
Personal effects,
right? See,
that's worse.
Yeah, that's what it was. I had to look it up because I couldn't remember. The movie Blow was initially supposed to be called Personal Effects. So there you go.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Any
really
other
make
version
sense.
of anything that I could think of that is like title worthy? It's like too much of a fucking. It's too wordy. It's too like
What
too
would you
much
have
like
named
that thing. I don't know. Like there's too much of like if I think about like, well, what could they have called it instead? Anything that even comes to mind at all is too much in that realm of like that other fucking movie we talked about last time that was like the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert whatever.
Right.
Like it's too many fucking words.
Mm.
Like I don't know. It also does like kind of leave this element of like, well, what's the movie even about? So I guess it does pique your interest.
Yeah.
To like look into it more. So I don't know.
I would have called it Liberty Bell.
Liberty Bell.
Liberty Bell.
I don't know. Legacy. I wrote down legacy of this film is that it's one of De Palma's best films. I only say that, and it's not his best film because Scarface still is my favorite film by De Palma because I just love that film. But on a technical aspect, this is probably like my favorite film by De Palma. But now I kind of want to go back and rewatch Scarface to see if there's any of the type of stuff now that I recognize as his style more so in that movie that I didn't recognize previously. I will tell you that the other movies I watched that came right before this in this late 70s, Dress to Kill and Body Double and not so much Carrie, those definitely use a lot of the same type. Like he follows somebody in both of those movies. Like there's a follow scene in both of those films, similar to what's kind of going on with the killer and everything at the start of this movie, or even like when that's a scene actually we didn't talk about when he follows her, John Lithgow, through the fish market and all that. That's a very cool scene as well when he actually tracks down that woman. But yeah, there's a lot of things now. I love noticing something about a filmmaker and then seeing other movies of his and then recognizing that same stuff
right on,
and maybe in a different kind of way, right? Applied in different types of films. So I those I think are more recognizable in this period because he said Scarface was a departure for the type of stuff he was doing at that time, he stated. So
there are some De Palma isms in Scarface for sure. Like there's some good ones. I'm not gonna say them now because
we'll do that movie eventually. Don't worry. So I said that, and I said it's one of the best Travolta films and one of the best conspiracy films. I think you can say you can make an argument for legacy in any of those categories for this movie. Honestly, Max.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think this is I mean I still need to see more De Palma stuff, but I could see why Tarantino calls it his favorite. I think like on a technical angle, it is extremely well put together. But like you, I just have a soft spot for Scarface. So, excellent movie. Like I'm glad you picked it, and I got to finally watch it, and I'm looking forward to revisiting it in the future. I really hope to do that. Yeah.
Nice.
So
JT, he just muted himself. You just muted yourself.
I can still hear you guys. I'm just gonna go fill my water, and I don't have anything written for this anyway. So like, go ahead. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, to be honest with you, everything, it doesn't really have a legacy. I like the sound that the audio aspect, like I said, the audio aspect, maybe that teaching
Didn't
you
make
about
that
that
much
sort
of
of
an
thing.
impact for you in the sense of like legacy. Yeah. Okay.
No, I mean, it's just certain things. I wonder if that's how the technology started. I mean, I know how that is how a lot of it started and stuff like that. But why I mean, John Travolta's chin sticks out for me the most. That's a legacy in its own.
Sure. There you
right?
go. John Travolta's chin is the legacy of this movie.
But
yeah.
I've always wanted one of those, to be honest with you.
I don't think I've ever seen your chin.
Butt chin?
I don't think I've ever seen your chin, not once, since I've known you.
You're not gonna know what his chin looks like.
No, it's very rare. I don't think anybody does. But yeah, no, honestly, it was and then the tradition, the transition of the style of acting he did through this movie into what he started to become, right?
And then finally, movie pairings. I put Body Double and Dress to Kill. I would say more Dress. Actually, I would say more Body Double than Dress to Kill is a better pairing because Body Double it has more to do with movie making again, and Dress to Kill doesn't. Although there is some scenes in in Dress to Kill that do have to do with sound and listening in on things, as well as positioning cameras to spy on people. So all these films have certain elements around this period of time that he was doing, and he was using to convey his stories by using different things about movie making and sound and film. Which is very impressive. So I'd say either of those are good, actually. Now that I think about it more, obviously the Conversation, like we talked about previously, because this inspired thing, like he took inspiration from the Conversation going into this one. JFK, I would say
I never saw that.
I recently watched it actually for the first time.
I need to see
it's
it.
good. It's good, and that's the Oliver Stone movie, which is all about the JFK assassination and his theories on it. And finally, Pulp Fiction. I think you know, if I'm going to point to a Tarantino early film that I feel like you can maybe, you know, there isn't certain themes, obviously, there's not similar themes in that as opposed to this, but there is certain things I feel like that would have inspired him to go off and do things like he did in Pulp Fiction, if that makes any sense. Like everything starts somewhere, and I think like since that is my favorite of his earlier films during that time, I think I threw that out as a good kind of pairing with this movie. All right, Max.
Yeah, so I wrote down the Conversation as well. I put down for the Hitchcockian aspects of it, I put Rear Window and Psycho. I think when you look at movies like that, they show you like the science behind like suspense and stuff like that, and how it's like it's really like a craft, and it makes you look at like filmmakers as like these guys are like puzzle makers in a way, like the way they put their pieces together. I think is just really interesting. This is kind of like a stupid one. This is just based on the based on the title of the movie. It's like referring to like a car kind of crash thing. So I put Whiplash.
Oh yeah,
like the drummer movie, because he also gets like whiplash in that movie too. So Blowout, Whiplash,
that's
whatever.
A great movie.
Yeah, I like that one too. So and then I have The Nice Guys and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I feel like those are like, if this was a comedy, those are what those movies are, because they're all about like uncovering like a conspiracy, but like from a comedic lens almost.
Also, it takes place in Hollywood. Both of them, they're all round movies. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He's starting to be an actor. Robert Downey Jr. He wants to be, and even the other one, The Nice Guys, it's about a porno star.
And the car comes off the cliff, and they uncover this whole
I like
plot.
that. That's good. I like that. That's a good pairing. I like that
because I feel like those are also like characters who are kind of just like, you know, they're PIs or average Joes or whatever, and then they kind of get thrown into this kind of plot that they're like,
that's good,
below their,
that's
you know,
good.
their
I like that
skill
pairing.
kind of. You know.
I love those movies.
Me too.
Jay.
I say just go back and start watching some John Travolta old, and then be prior to this and then after this. I mean, it makes me want to go watch Face Off after at the end of this, right? But yeah, but no, like I said, and how the character kind of ends himself off here could kind of turn him into the character he played in Pulp Fiction, in that sense, where he was more of a, you know, I don't know.
Went to Amsterdam after this. He was so fucked up. He went to Amsterdam.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Started doing heroin. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, honestly, the way you looked at the end of this movie, I can totally see that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like he's given up essentially at the end of this movie. Like he's like fuck life at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean that's really just because you can see the trick. You can now thinking about it. I didn't go back and rewatch any of those ones, but I mean, just thinking about the type of switch, it's kind of almost how I feel like how it maybe it started into that different transition of where he was going to go with the type of acting he did too, right? So you get a little bit of both.
Yeah,
right?
Well, that's good. We didn't actually even talk about it. I know you mentioned it in passing, but yeah, that is though the quote of the film. It's a good scream. It's a good scream at the end, though. That is like I don't.
If it's a good scream, it's a good night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the fact that he like repeated that to himself at the end there, that was you know that sums up the whole fucking dark ending of the movie.
It's
right?
like a full circle moment, kind of from the beginning to the end.
Yeah. Julie, movie pairings.
You know, this is my favorite category.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. I did my thing and I went a little crazy a little bit.
Let's go.
So because I have such limited knowledge of his back catalog of movies, my other pick for a Brian De Palma pick was Raising Cain, because it just dark as fuck, but like I feel like it's like
that too, right?
That also, yeah. For my other Travolta pick, I went Pulp Fiction, like you said.
Nice.
My other ones are they might be a little bit out there as far as like relativity, but I have semi explanations for all of them. I feel like we've even talked about this one before, or I could be mixing up like a conversation I had with Miles or something. You guys have seen Insomnia, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's an apt pick for this one?
He is losing his mind throughout that film. Yeah, that's a good pairing. Yeah, I like that. I can
kind of like
that.
like neo noir esque kind of procedural police thing. Like that's
a good pick. I like that.
Felt similar to me, and then I also kind of went on the car thread that Max went on, sort of like what you were just saying about Whiplash. I put down Drive for the same reason.
Oh
like,
yeah,
that's
a good one.
Neo noir-esque kind of suspense film.
He's also on the movie set, right? Like a stunt driver on a movie.
Yeah. And then I also wrote down Taxi Driver.
Nice.
And then I put down, okay, so this one was a little hard to explain, but it was so hard for me to fucking find this movie because I couldn't remember the director at first. Anyway, it was a bargain bin movie that I saw, and when I was like doing my write-up for the show, I was like, I feel like I was remembering plot points of the movie, but I was like, I don't really know why I feel like why I was reminded of it just now, because I'm like, I don't even feel like the story is similar, and I could only remember like such small themes and bits and pieces of the movie. I'm like, so I had to look it up and like just refresh my memory on the actual story. And it actually does make sense. I'm just like impressed with my connection in my brain that I made to it to even find it. It was a film called Lucid. And there's so many films called Lucid, but it's from 2005. It's a Canadian movie, and it's a Sean Garrity film. It's the only thing he did, I think. And
oh yeah, okay.
It's so when I looked it up and I rewatched the trailer, I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of like he from what I remember, and like again, I could be misspeaking on it, but like I think so he goes through, I don't know, I don't want to spoil too much of it because I can't remember how much of this is like a reveal. He ends up, this guy who is a therapist ends up with insomnia, and like it basically has this kind of conspiracy theme to it. But yeah, I don't want to like give too much more. I should just look at the synopsis. Hold on a second. I had it open a second ago. A Canadian therapist has one last job to keep his own personal life afloat by avoiding a job transfer and working to help 3 patients suffering from extreme post-traumatic stress disorder. But he himself is like going through insomnia and sort of losing his mind and like concocting like this conspiracy thing in his head.
That's so it has this. You came up with these based on the fact of what Travolta was going through filming this, and like, yeah, that's interesting.
Even not knowing that, but just like I was like, oh, it's weird that I like just like I was like, what the fuck was that movie called? But I like didn't even feel like it was related. It was just like, oh, I kind of forgot about this movie like while I was writing it up, and it does, for whatever reason, I feel like it is connected. So like, and it's not really well known. So like. The reviews and stuff online are okay. I remember it very fondly. I should rewatch it, but like I would recommend that you guys check that one out just for the sake of curiosity.
Billy Zane's in this movie.
Yeah,
I love Billy Zane.
Yeah. The only other thing I wrote down, kind of a palate cleanser version of like paranoid conspiracy theory thing, was Pineapple Express.
Nice.
Yeah. But Lucid is my most interesting pick of my list to me, just because it is so under the radar. I feel like
I've never heard of it. Yeah, I put it down here. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, so that's it.
Could I throw out actually one more? I wasn't gonna say it, but because it's so kind of left field, but whatever. While I was watching this movie, Nancy Allen, the whole time I'm looking at Nancy Allen, I'm like, she looks so much like Meg Ryan to me. Like, was I the only one that said that? So I don't. Maybe it was the hair or whatever. It was like that famous '80s haircut. So I was like thinking like When Harry Met Sally, because both characters are named Sally and they have like almost a similar haircut. But also, I mean, it would be a nice pairing with this just because this movie is so depressing. So after you finish it, you watch something a little more lighthearted. But that movie was really like famous for I'm a huge fan of that movie. It's really famous for the split screen scenes with what's the guy's name who played Harry? Billy
Crystal.
Billy Crystal, thank you. And Meg Ryan when they're like talking together on their phone and it's like a split screen thing.
That's right.
That was another movie that like kind of used that technique a lot. So I was like,
yeah,
that would have been a nice one. Like,
nice. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a classic for sure. Okay, so that's gonna do it for movie pairings, and that's gonna do it for this pick. This is my pick, and I'm glad you guys all enjoyed it for the most part. And yeah, I was happy that we got to watch this because this has literally been on my radar to talk about it on this show since we've relaunched this show. So it's been almost a year, honestly, that I've been thinking of busting this one out. So there you go, guys. Happy to get it off the list. And like I said, it's all bangers from here on out. I'm just picking bangers.
Nice.
No more experimental picks. That's it. Bangers. Banger Central. No. Listen, but speaking of bangers, I feel like we're going to have one coming up next.
Oh, shit.
Julie, if you want to kind of set this one up and let us know what's going down here for the next episode.
All right. So we were in talks about it last episode. I had some time. We had some, catalog review to figure out what we wanted to do. We're going to do special guest episode with Parth because his favorite director of all time is Tarantino. So that much we do know. Okay. And I did take into account that that the show has already done a review of which ones, remind me again?
Pulp Fiction. I think, did we just do Pulp Fiction? No, we did Inglourious Bastards. Yeah, I think just those two. Yeah, I think that's
so
it.
We had taken that into account. And this is well, we have, some options, but it's this is a collaborative pick that I was open to. He gave me some choices. We decided on Kill Bill. I know that you said that we have to watch both because they are considered one movie. So this is going to be a bit of a project for us all. But
oh, wow.
Nice.
That's what we've come to the decision on. Kill Bill 1 and 2.
Throwing his head back there.
That's like a 5-hour episode.
Is that too much for you?
Exactly.
You're just going to come on and say like the same 3 lines you always say. Yeah, this is very interesting.
You see Uma Thurman and her giant hands.
Nice choice, Julie.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you. Thank Parth. Parth was the deciding vote on let's do Kill Bill. So
we're watching both of the Kill Bill Part 1 and Part 2. Okay.
Based on what you said, we would have to do both. So that we'd had that in mind.
It only makes sense because he originally
he considers them to be one.
I'm glad you're picking something this long, Julie, because it'll make me feel less guilty when I pick like a 3-hour fucking Ridley Scott epic or some shit. I don't know.
Do it.
Director's cut or whatever,
All right.
And also taking into account that I think you guys both Nico and Max had said that of the catalog, they think that I would connect most with Kill Bill.
I think so.
It's got the most like things in it. Like it basically runs the gamut.
Actually, maybe.
I don't know, man.
It's really hard to pinpoint your taste, Julie, honestly.
To be honest, yeah, it is. But to be honest with you, also, like, there's everything in this movie. Like, there's like it runs the gamut of like every interest Quentin Tarantino has. Like, honestly, like at this time period, anyway.
I thought you would have liked Mad Max Fury Road because it showed like Charlize Theron, like kind of like a strong female character. I don't know if that's like a good assumption of like something you'd be into, but so like Kill Bill is kind of like that too, so now I'm like scared. Will she like it? Because I know you didn't like Fury Road, so now I'm thinking, oh fuck, will she not like?
Dude,
Kill Bill now? Like,
my opinions change with the phase of the fucking moon. Like, don't sweat it that much.
So no, I'm not nervous or anything. I'm just like, I'm just trying to predict it in my head.
She's the biggest wild card on this show.
Absolutely,
she's an enigma,
I don't think I've never met in my life.
Honestly,
I am out of pocket 24/7. Insane 2025. That's what I said.
Yeah,
bringing that energy to the whole year.
Parth will be our next guest, and we will be watching and discussing Kill Bill Parts 1 and Part 2 on this show in a couple weeks. So there you go, guys. That's our next movie here on the episode, on the show. I'm very much looking forward to that because you know what? I don't know where Kill Bill lands for me out of all his like films. Honestly, it might be like somewhere in the. I really enjoy it, but it's been a long time since I've actually watched Kill Bill, so I'm actually looking forward to discussing this.
That's probably the episode I'll bring the hot takes.
Yeah,
Bring 'em.
Should definitely have a lot of
there's
Tarantino hot takes.
so much in those movies, though. Honestly, to kind of unpack, there's a lot going on in those movies.
JT is so dreading.
Yeah, start watching it tomorrow, Jay, because you're gonna need all that time. All right, watch it.
He's gonna listen to it. He's not gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very, very interesting, bro.
I watched it on the can. It was fine.
Seriously, like, oh man.
I look forward to your summary of the film in a couple weeks. I don't know. But by the way, I saw what you rated Blowout. Fucking
Me?
bastard. No, Jay. He just
Oh, okay.
I just
put it in right now.
I just stay neutral with everybody. That's it.
What did he do?
Yeah.
How many stars?
You gave it 3 stars. How dare you?
That's a good score.
What?
That's a good score. No,
bad
3?
score. 5 stars.
I didn't rate it, but I don't rate.
I know.
anything.
All right, so that's gonna do it for this episode, guys. We'll see you in a couple weeks for Kill Bill Part 1 and Part 2, and probably our second guest ever, I think, on the show. I think Christine's the only person that's come on in this new version of Late Night at the Movie since we started because we had the 4 of us. So yeah, look forward to that, and more to come, guys. All right, thanks everybody.
So.
Oh, I gotta put out that outro music. Where is it?
So the point I forgot to mention is the music was so cheesy but so lit.
Right. Exactly. No, I 100% completely agree with that. It's not great, but it works. Like, you know what I
No,
mean?
it's great. It's ironically great. It like comes full circle.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so here's some more of that, guys. It's a good scream. It's a good scream.